We're on, yep. I see it. It said it was screen. You're ready, Supervisor?
Ready?
Hold on,
Oh, not yet. We'll wait for the town
hold
clerk.
on.
My screen says it's
Okay.
stream.
Got it. I will put you as host.
Okay, and I'll make you co-host.
What's that?
All right, Supervisor, with this.
Ready? I welcome all of you to the October 13th Rushtown Board meeting. And also that welcome goes to those who are on Zoom. Will you please join me in our salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Town clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Wilbur,
Here.
Councilwoman Gordon,
Here?
Councilwoman Wickerham,
Here?
Supervisor Pusey,
I am here, thank you.
and Councilman Lang is excused.
And Supervisor, if I could just ask town clerk, if you can make me host and then I can handle the chat. I know it's being
My
finicky today.
apologies.
It's okay. Sorry, Supervisor. go ahead.
Well, that's okay. Tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
You are ready. All right. I'm gonna take my mask off so people can understand what I'm saying.
Thank you.
Only to be removed when I'm talking. I want to make an announcement, and that announcement is that Monday was not only Columbus Day, but Indigenous Peoples' Day across the country. Not everybody celebrates Indigenous Peoples' Day, but we do. We decided to do it last year. We did it again this year. We know that more municipalities are joining that movement. And we want to remember us as being one of the first in line to honor it. As a result, I was presented with a flag, an Indigenous Peoples flag. And with the board's approval, I would like to fly it every November to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Month. It would fly below our American flag. And I don't know yet. I'm looking for guidance from the person who takes care of the flagpole. Do we put this below the POW flag or do we remove the POW flag for 1 month? Thank you.
You say the month of November or the month of October?
The month of November.
Oh, even though we celebrate it in October.
Well, Indigenous Peoples' Day is celebrated on October 11th. I'm sorry,
Yep,
Yeah.
yes,
October.
11th, but Indigenous Peoples' Month across the country is celebrated the month of November. So you can either tell me now, we go for it, or you can give me an email or a phone call and say, include us.
Do we have to do a resolution
No.
or,
No, just,
but this is,
I move to vote. I move to vote. Do we vote?
no,
Okay.
We do.
so
no,
it's not something that we have to vote on. But it,
something we have to vote on. It's as much of a courtesy thing from me as anything. I'm saying, does the town board approve me flying this flag?
I certainly do.
I don't have a problem with it.
Well, that's,
I mean, as long as we follow the
Guidelines.
federal guidelines for flag flying,
we will continue to do that. And depending on the positioning, we will put the indigenous people's flag below the American flag.
Wherever it's, right. Supervisor, I'm going to interrupt one more time.
You can do it 5 more times.
Technology update, town clerk, the owl video is not on. So if everyone is okay, if I can just step over to see if the camera is on, people at home are saying they can't see us.
He's not, I mean, we
No,
don't see any
no.
lights either.
You just have
There,
to
you're
start.
right, there's no light on
There's no
there.
light on him.
He's not on it at all.
Mm-mm.
There's two. Maybe
He's
they
plugged
unplugged
in.
it, unplugged it when.
No light on the owl, Amber.
Yep, that's what we're trying to figure out right now.
Poor little guy.
I'm thinking.
I hear it.
No, that's the
It's not plugged into
computer.
the computer. That's
That
the
was
power
computer.
cord.
It's right here.
Oh, no. Here- No, that's, what is this?
No,
plug
that's,
into?
that is
Plug
plugged
into
into the
there.
wall. I don't think she has the, you know,
No,
what do they
this
call it?
power, oh, that's not, there's no power.
Oh,
in that laptop.
your battery charger. We need. No, it's not.
It's right there.
Can we just go back to 1920 and not have any of this
Meeting
stuff?
owl is on.
There it is. There it is. Yeah.
It's
That's
on
just
now.
what
Okay,
it is.
there we go.
What'd you do?
Yeah, it just, I had to turn your video was off. So we're good. Thank you, everyone at home.
That's his dad.
Okay, I'm
There he
done.
is. His eyes are open now.
Yep, his eyes are on.
All right, I apologize for the inconvenience to the attendees, and I apologize to those home who could not hear us or see us. So we will move on. I have no other announcements than that. So we will move on to the public comment period. Remember, this is where you get to state your opinion. Do not expect a two-way conversation with any of us. Your opinion, and I really ask you to respect a 3-minute rule. If you can fit it all into 3 minutes, that'll be great. If you become redundant beyond 3 minutes, I might ask you to stop talking. So thank you very much, and be respectful of those around you, please. Would anyone like to open up the public comment period? Yes, ma'am, please state your name, and your address.
Hi, my name is Nancy Van Zandt, and I live at 705 Road. I came to speak about a couple concerns that I have. One is with the rezoning of the property across the street from me, which is Route
15.
Route 15 and 251 area that Jack Moore is proposing to build a distribution center there. I don't know what kind of industrial park it would be, but living across the street from there, we already have a numerous amount of traffic and trucks that go by. Richelli's is closed now, trucking company up the road from us, but another equally busy trucking company has taken over. The speed limit there used to be 45 miles an hour. I've called the state a couple times to try to get that speed reduced again. When it was 45 miles an hour, people drove 55. So now it's 55 miles an hour and people are driving 60 miles an hour down the road. Numerous animals have been killed in the road, 3 of my own. My neighbor's horse was hit in the road. But there's been 3 accidents that I personally witnessed. Someone turned around in my driveway out into the street and was rear-ended. They come up over that hill so fast. Having an industrial park there would only increase the traffic that goes through there. The amount of traffic is increased because of the highway being repaired there. It's been pretty concerning lately, but that's, I think, temporary. We have to cross the road to get to the mailboxes. So that is difficult. I've called the town, the highway department because it's not been mowed across the street. It's only been mowed once this summer, and the grass is really high again, so that was another concern of mine, but I really like to see it stay wild. I'd like to see the farmland stay. You know, new houses are going up, and that's great for people who need housing and stuff, but I'd really like to see it not be an industrial area. And that's, I think, all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would you like someone from the chat supervisor, or do you want to have people at home in person first? And then
Well,
we'll go
we
to the
can
chat?
give these folks a rest and give someone on chat an opportunity.
John Morelli would like to speak. John, please turn your video on and mute yourself and give us your address.
Okay, can you see and hear me? This is John Morelli, 535 Five Points Road.
We hear you well.
Oh, good, okay. I have a comment regarding the Moore rezoning request. Wholesale distribution businesses, as proposed in the Moore application, are in fact identified in the town code as permissible in an industrial district. This is under section 120-14A1C. However, retail and service type commercial businesses are not permitted. Retail and service type commercial business are not permitted in industrial district. Interestingly, our applicant, Mr. Moore, is not requesting that this land be rezoned to an industrial district, but rather that it be rezoned to become a limited industrial district, which will also require Mr. Moore to apply for a special permit. But this is because up to 5% of the land in a limited industrial district can in fact be used for retail and service type commercial businesses. However, Mr. Moore's conceptual plan includes a commercial gas station, a car wash, and a convenience store, all commercial ventures, which already exceed the 5% restriction. That's an easy calculation. And there has been mention of a full-on truck stop, which would involve a lot more than 5% of this land. Special permits require adherence to 8 specified conditions under section 120-15B to A through H, including these two. D, condition D, any outside storage of vehicles shall be screened from any adjacent site. However, no such screening is proposed on any side of this facility in the conceptual plan. And G, loading and unloading areas shall be so located and designated that the vehicles intended to use them can maneuver safely and conveniently to and from a public right-of-way. Again, as Mr. Carl asked last time, pointed out at our last meeting, this does not appear to be the case in this plan. Under section 120-69D, special permits, the planning board is charged with determining, 1, that the proposed use at the particular location is necessary or desirable to provide a service or facility which will contribute to the general well-being of the neighborhood or the community. However, this has not been determined. And by law, this rezoning request can legitimately be delayed by the town board or disregarded by the town board until the town is in a position to make such a determination. That in making such number two, that in making such a determination, the planning board shall consider traffic hazards, fire hazards, offensive odors, smoke, fumes, noise, lights, the general character of the neighborhood, the nature and use of other premises, the location and use of other buildings in the vicinity, and whether or not the proposed use will be detrimental to neighboring properties. But rezoning without a specified plan is itself a hazard. A serious traffic study can only be performed after a special plan is developed. Rezoning this land without such knowledge is unnecessarily dangerous and unnecessary.
Mr. Morelli, you're at
Yes.
3 minutes.
Okay, let me just finish up then. 3, that the proposed use will be in harmony with the proposed future development of the neighborhood and will not discourage appropriate development and use of adjacent land. However, 87% of the land borders R30 residential and agricultural land. This hardly seems an appropriate neighbor. And in conclusion, once again, we return to the issue of planning. What is the plan for this area? I could tell you that it is not what's being proposed by this applicant. While people like Mr. James Cole, Mr. Ryan Lang, Ms. Phyllis Wickerham, and Mr. Rick Dorschel have all argued that it's so difficult for large-scale developers in the town of Rush, they are all missing the point that this is not what the most of the rest of us who live here want or envision for the future of our town. I remember Mr. Dorschel coming in front of the planning board to explain that when he was only 6 years old, he remembered his father bringing civilization to Henrietta and stated that he hoped to do the same for Rush. Very interesting, but this is not what we want. Let's please finish our revision to the Rush Comprehensive Master Plan and then decide where we need to go. I'm sorry for running over, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll turn to those in attendance. Sir, could you approach the podium, state your name and address, please?
Tony Masalella, 7044 West Henrietta Road. Happen to live right next door to Nancy.
If you want to take your mask off.
Thank you. Okay,
We sympathize.
I've been thinking about this and I'm looking at it from a different angle. Okay, whether or not that industrial park gets put there, that's one thing. Thing that we need to worry about is something nobody's thought about, and that's winters. That piece of road from the blinking light to the light gets so slippery in the winter, okay, that we have trouble getting in and out of our driveways. The other problem we have is Krenser's Field doesn't have snow fences, so that road is covered with snow all the time. And I was thinking about tractor trailers coming off 390, making a right, trying to make the left to get in there. People coming over the hill who are doing 65 or 70 because they do summer and winter, trying to stop. I think that's gonna be an area where we're gonna see a lot of accidents and we're probably gonna see a death or two. I think that needs to be looked at. The other thing is, what is this town all about? What did the forefathers think about this town? I mean, does anybody have an idea? No, I do. If you take a look at this, pass this around. I have these for everybody. This is what the forefathers wanted. And the reason we posted it is because we knew they wanted it. They wanted to keep this a farm community. Now, if we want, we want light industrial, there are areas that are already light industrial that are used, and there's areas designated that aren't being facilitated, but they already have that zoning. So I think if we're gonna put something in this town to help build revenue, as the town probably needs to do, okay, let's do it in those areas that aren't being utilized right now, that are already set. And let's do it in an area where the pedestrians coming in the town who are residents and those who are passing through town to get into the city or to get out of the city, driving that road are gonna be safe summer and winter. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you very much.
Carol, I see a first name Carol on the chat, but I don't see a last name. Carol, if you would unmute yourself and give us your name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it's Carol Barnett at 117 Lions Road. I also would like to speak against the proposed Moore Industrial Park. I think it would bring a big change to our town, and I believe it would usher in even more change, maybe even a cascade of change. And I don't think we should even consider such a thing until we have a completed comprehensive plan, something that's in the process of being updated right now. Now, I think we should remember this doesn't mean a stop to all development in the town. It just means a stop to major development, and especially development that requires a change in our laws. which is what a rezoning is. It's a change in the laws. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Carol. Anyone from this audience?
Good evening, Jim Wilkins, 589 East Henrietta Road. Can you hear me?
Closer.
Yeah,
closer.
no, the microphone is not, just talk.
Oh, it's not even-
Yeah, yeah, just
This,
talk.
there's one on the owl,
okay.
Jim, and it works really well.
I can understand people that live in the area of any kind of development don't want it. I understand it, not in my own backyard. That's countrywide, that's everybody doesn't want anything. But under the code of common sense, I would think you would understand that this is one place where we should put development. It's the only place in town where there should be development, along the West Road, along that area. I mean, that's where it should go. I'm sorry, but I mean, you've got farmland across the street, generations of farmers. The next generation might not want to farm, young people. A lot of young people are leaving the farms. So what happens if this guy wants to, whoever, Krenzer, I know it's Krenzer, what if they want to develop something there? Are you going to forbid them to develop it because they don't want to be farmers anymore? I mean, I can understand, I sympathize with people in the area. But that doesn't rule out. I'm on the comprehensive committee, and if anything, and that's a year away at least. It's a tough thing to try to come to a conclusion and come to common sense things that we have to do in this town. But it'd be uncommon. I mean, it doesn't make sense to put it anywhere else in the town. Where are you going to put it? You want to put it in 5 Points? I mean, where are you going to put something? I mean, we're not going to put it, it's not going to come down the main street of Rush. That's not going to happen. That's never going to happen. So that's the one place you want to put it is by the expressway. That was put in, that exit, because that's where they thought we were going to have development. And in the old comprehensive plan, which was never followed to any extent at all, and it's this thick, and those people spent hours and hours and hours and hours doing that plan. I've read the whole thing, and that was where they wanted it. And if it doesn't happen there, it won't happen anywhere in town. And I can understand. I sort of get a kick out of people saying, putting signs up. They love the farmers. Back when they wanted to put solar panels on, all the farmers were jackasses. I mean, they were terrible. I mean, they were terrible people. They're trying to make money on their own land. That's not right. Well, guess what happened? Now all of a sudden, people got their own way somewhat, and now the farmers are great people, because they got their own way. That's just human nature. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Supervisor, I believe Joanne would like to speak. Joanne, if you would unmute yourself, turn your video on, and state your address for us.
Hi, Joanne Scanlon, 1633 Rush Henrietta Road. I would just like to speak on that as well. I think that others who have spoken have said the same thing. The comprehensive plan from 1993, we recommended that be zoned light industrial. And by saying that we need to wait for another comprehensive plan after that one was, that'll be 30 years by the time we get a new comprehensive plan is just ridiculous, in the hopes that maybe this recommendation will be different. And if it's not, are we going to have to wait another 30 years before anyone will, make a decision on this? So, it was zoned or recommended to be zoned as light industrial. I think that we need to, really look at that and not wait for another comprehensive plan. I think that it's again, the land is not going to be able to use for residential. It's just not going to happen. Nobody's going to build there. Just because we changed the zoning to light industrial does not mean that we have to go ahead and approve what Jack Moore is envisioning for that property. Tonight's talk about the Moore property is just to rezone it. Once it's rezoned, that's when talks start happening about what's going to happen on that land. it may not be anything, and there may not be any trucking there, and there may not be a gas station. We don't know. That is something then for the town and Jack to talk about and bring it back to the people to make a decision. Has nothing at all to do with what you're considering tonight, just the rezoning. And I think that's appropriate. And I think that you really need to focus again on it just being this rezoning. Thanks.
Thank you. And anyone else want to speak? You can come up later. After we go through everyone, you can come up.
Catherine Higgins, 2353 Pinnacle Road. I did not participate in the public hearing last week or 3 weeks ago because I felt it was really important to listen to the neighbors, the folks who have to use West Henrietta Road, the folks who are more directly impacted on this. And as Jim Wilkins said, you know, I think there's a comprehensive plan always is about land use. Where will it be? How much land will be used? And while we may have had the comprehensive plan in 1993, it did translate into a zoning map that we have been using for the last 30 years. But I caution everyone, this is not time for rezoning. And what happens, whether we approve going forward with a seeker review, this land is only useful for certain purposes. And it has to be really resolved about traffic and about a whole many other issues. But I think last time with the public hearing, and this should not turn into a pro and con session, someone raised the issue of what the impact would be on our hamlet. And someone raised the important issue of whether light industrial in our community will actually lower our taxes. And so I really have been doing some research over the last 3 weeks. And I think that that would be the most important issue because it keeps coming up that we want light industrial to lower our taxes, to increase our tax base. And I don't think that's necessarily so. So when we go to the American Planning Association, when we start to do our research, this town may actually suffer considerably and lose some of their tax base because we clearly promote that we are a bedroom community. We are a very strong rural residential community, and people move here so they can have access to the city, but the enjoyment and the pleasure of living in a town that is rural by its nature, but very, very private by its reputation. So we have to be careful, and we should go back to the research that has been done already with some of the survey tools that have been done already to realize that this is not an issue just for the neighbors. This is an issue for the character and the purpose of our community. Who are we? What are we all about? So I really appreciate this because I think this took a long time to get the right to farm community. And I do not agree that people who were for or against solar farms were in any way for or against farming. So these are things that we need to talk about in a very civil way, in a very structured way, and come to some harmony because that's why most of us want to live in this town. We are not a divisive community. We are very, very much on the same page. And I would say that 98% of our community wants our town to maintain and protect and preserve our rural character. So I hope we can just stop right now and move back to what the comprehensive plan was intended to do, which was to recognize our vision for the future. And it will not take, it should not cost a lot of money. Towns have updated their comprehensive plan in a very short period of time, and we have models all around this community. So let's be careful what we do. And let's postpone these kind of decisions until we have much more of an understanding of what the people of Rush want. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Hankins. Anyone on?
A person at home who's already spoken would like to respond to someone that spoke.
And we have one person in the audience who would like to speak again. Anyone else?
Hi there, Marianne Rizzo, 25 Stowe Road. So
we have an oasis here, beautiful place to live, beautiful rural countryside. Please vote no to this proposal. You know, I think that the town, some of the people that on the town board might be using this syllogism to this reasoning in order to say yes to this. And it says, you know, you say things like, we need to use the comprehensive plan of 1993, and it's in the plan that you can rezone this property to 69 acres of limited industrial development. But see, the premise is flawed in that part of the land is not in the comprehensive plan of 1993. And I don't know, it depends on what model you're looking at, 35 to 45% of the land is not in the comprehensive plan. And this was stated by one of the planning board members early on in the process. So I don't think you can use that as your premise in which to say yes to this. So if you zone 35 to 45% of this, depending on the model, to limited industrial, it is equivalent to spot zoning. And spot zoning is, and I looked it up because I wanted to make sure I understood it. It's rezoning a parcel that is at odds with the master plan. So please don't use that flawed premise in which to make your decision. It's not a good one. Okay, so, and then the problem becomes, if you do it, you're going to set a precedent. And you know how I feel about precedents. You set the precedent, and whichever town board takes their oaths in January, they're going to be stuck with this precedent if it were to be approved before the next town board. So, and the precedent is what you do for one, you have to do for another. And yeah, there will be, maybe if it does get approved, there might be a special permit, there might be a hardship, we need sewers. And what you do for one, you have to do for another. And then, you know what, then the townspeople are going to be paying it in taxes. Their taxes are going to go to the lawyers. And I don't want my taxes going to all the lawyers. I really don't. So please do not use this flawed premise. And you know the Foster Brooks Foster Brooks proposal come back knocking at our door. And then, you know, they'll be using it. Furthermore, the people that went around to 114 people, okay. And 107 out of the 114 signed the petition. These are the primary stakeholders. And is it your duty to listen to them? Do you need to go get another temperature of all those people? Do you want to go door to door like they did? And I saw the petition. They said they don't want sewers and they don't want this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom?
Just that John Morelli would like to speak again. I do
Let him
not
on.
hear anyone else. Mr. Morelli, feel free to unmute yourself and turn your video on.
Okay. Trying to turn the video on. All right. Yeah, I just wanted to comment in response to a few moments ago, Ms. Joanne Scanlon stated that the 1993 comprehensive plan did in fact recommend rezoning of this property to limited industrial. I'm very familiar with the comprehensive plan, and I say that it did not. It did recommend a portion of the property to be rezoned limited industrial, but it also recommended a portion to be maintained as agricultural, and a portion to be designated as open space. The idea of a plan is broader. It's a broader concept than just a single parcel. I mean, it looks at the entire area. Mr. Moore's proposal puts a limited industrial wedge right in the middle of what's been recommended by our plan to have an agricultural zone throughout. Again, as I said before, 87% of the border of this parcel is against agricultural land. Ms. Scanlon's claim is dangerously misleading. Please, please, please let it be accurate in what we state. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to speak again, please?
Very briefly.
Name and address?
Nancy 7054 West
Thank
Henrietta
you.
Road in Rush, New York. Just a thought that I had forgotten to speak about was about the traffic. And I don't know if it would be something because it's a state highway, not a town highway. How would there be a study as to the traffic flow there and the speeds and whatnot? The other roads that are parallel and adjacent are all 45 miles an hour or less. And I just wondered, how would we find out? How would we do a study to find out about the traffic? That's it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Supervisor, Audrey Siebert sent Pam a chat, since both Pam and I can get chats. So she said it's not related to the Moore property, but I believe she wanted to speak.
That's fine. We're not in a hearing for
Audrey,
more
if you would
property.
unmute yourself and turn your video on if you would like, and give us your name and address, please.
I'm trying to start my video. Do you see or hear me?
Yes,
We now do.
Hi. It's not related to the Moore property, but I do want to know, with the election coming up within the month, is there any, Audrey Siebert, 585 Honeyway Falls, 5 Points Road. I just want to know, with the election coming up within the next month, is there any kind of meet the candidate event or debate scheduled because of all these hot button issues that we seem to be talking about in these last few months?
This isn't really an exchange of information in this public comment session. If you'd like to ask the question in the second session, we will answer it for you.
Okay, I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Supervisor Carol Barnett would like to speak again.
Welcome.
Carol, unmute yourself.
I'm trying. Is there any harm in my informing people of a meet and greet event tomorrow night?
You can do that because it's your turn to speak.
Because it's my turn to speak. Yes, I want to tell Audrey and everyone else that tomorrow night there will be a meet and greet for all candidates running for town office in Rush. That's the candidates for town board, for town supervisor, and for Monroe County legislator. And the event is taking place from 6:30 to 7:30 at the Rush United Methodist Church. I hope you all know that. That's on Rush Lima Road, just around the bend past the post office and on the same side of the road. We're going to try to keep things safe for COVID. But it's also possible for you to watch on the church's YouTube channel. I don't know. I actually had sent around to as many people as possible notice about this, and we had an enclosure in the Penny Saver that also had the link to the YouTube channel and the Facebook link for the Rush United Methodist Church. So hopefully anybody who would like to attend will either be able to be there live, and we'll be as careful as we can for those who do come. That means once you're inside the building, have your masks on, except perhaps for the people who are speaking. I think that might be acceptable as it is for the town board. And we will be having refreshments if people feel safe doing that. Obviously, you have to take off your mask briefly to have refreshments, but with the weather being like it is, I think some people may take their refreshments and their conversation outdoors. So I guess I covered it. It's tomorrow, 6:30 to 7:30. It's every candidate will have a chance to introduce himself or herself. There won't be a Q&A or a debate per se, but people, hopefully the candidates who can do so will stay around and speak with the neighbors, and the neighbors will speak with each other. So I welcome everybody to come. And maybe we can post this on the Town of Rush website tomorrow. I don't know if that's possible, or if it's even been done, because when something's on the website, you don't necessarily know to look for it there.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else like to speak here? Please state your name, address.
Joe Wilkins, 589 East Center Road. I come to these meetings not intending to say anything, but I just like to express my opinions. You know, they talk about dangers in the town. one thing dangerous is the store down here. Trying to get in and out of that, that's dangerous. It's the only place in town we can get gas. We have one that has one of the highest prices in the county for gas. To think that he might put a gas station and a car wash and maybe a drugstore or something in this town, my God, that's a no-brainer. I mean, another gas station that might make these people over here lower their prices, good idea.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Come up, please state your name, address.
Tony Mazzalone, 7400 West Henrietta Road. I just heard what the young man had to say, and he brings up a good point. My counterpoint to that is, when we built the building on the corner, we wanted to utilize the vacant piece of land that Dorsey owns. We had offered the town that we'd put in a gas station, we put up 4 buildings. We would let 4 residents of the town run a business, and we would back them financially. We were turned down. We were told that we couldn't do it because we need sewers. What I guess the point is, if 6 years ago, that wasn't feasible, but the comprehensive plan has been there for 30 years, why is it feasible now? The other thing is, what percentage of Jack's property, once we heard the gentleman tell about the open land, okay, and what land can be developed and what land can't, what percentage of that property that he wants to do can be developed, and where is that land? Do we know? What part of that land? Do we know? Do we know what the specifics are? We don't. We just know that he wants to do something. We don't know. And I don't think that anybody realized that what the young man said in the comprehensive plan, that part of that land had to remain residential, part had to be part industrial, and part had to be open land. I heard it I've been to every meeting, I never heard that. I think we need to look into that. And to this young man's point, I'm not opposed to what they want to do.
Thank you for saying young man.
But again, I've said this and said this, I'm opposed to the trucking company. I think that's gonna cause the problems. If we have to put up with other things, I mean, as I was told, you live in the country, sometimes things change. Okay, but let's have reasonable change, not just change that's gonna, interrupt everybody in town, because most town people use that intersection from time to time. You go to that intersection to come to work?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's gonna affect you. You go to that intersection? You go to that intersection? You go to that intersection? This morning, twice, to get out of my driveway, I had to wait for 11 cars and 13 cars.
It's not safe.
I don't doubt it. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? Mr. Hankins, name and address, please.
A while back, I heard talk about taxes being over $250,000. 25 houses will bring in over $250,000 of taxes also.
Thank you. Anyone else?
No one else on the chat, Supervisor.
One last person. Name and address, please.
Hi, Mary Ann Rizzo, 25 Stone Road. This is mostly somewhat unrelated. I went back for the YouTube channel to look at the public hearing on September 22nd, the last board meeting. And there were over 90 people that have reviewed the site. I think that's a lot for our town. But I was shocked to see that all the clapping had been muted. You can see people clapping, but you can't hear them clapping. I don't know if you're aware of that. And I just don't think it's authentic to mute the clapping. And I don't know why it was done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, assuming there's no one else who wants to speak, we will move on to the correspondence category. I want to make everyone aware that the Rochester Gas and Electric has announced their latest heat program. That's the Home Energy Assistance Program. Contact the RG&E or our office And I'll make sure that the town clerk has a copy of this. And in the supervisor's office, there's a copy of this also. The second thing I wanted to mention was we just got the 2020 land use monitoring report for Monroe County. It's very interesting to read it. It's not related to any proposals we've received, but it's interesting information on our town. So if anybody wants to stop in and read this, have at it. Next, we will approve the minutes of our regular meeting on September 22nd.
Supervisor, I did not receive an email until middle of the afternoon, 2 something. So I have not had a chance to review them.
I haven't either. Should we table these?
Table the minutes?
Make sure I read the right one, September 22nd.
Yep, they were not emailed to us till late, well, middle of the afternoon.
I must be special. Well, in the event that I'm not here, when you review these again, I want to make sure that everybody knows that under Councilperson Woolhaver's report, he said the fire commissioners are working on the preliminary budget. I don't think he said that because it isn't true. It should say that they were working on the fire department budget, not
They're
the
working on the
preliminary budget.
Fire department
Fire
preliminary
department.
budget.
It just needs more explanation for the people. Now, the second thing is, the supervisor requested to postpone the executive session. I might have done that, but I was probably under the influence. So I would like that changed to whatever it's supposed to be, because I did not postpone the executive session. So given that no one else got the minutes, we'll postpone the approval of that until our next meeting, if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah, table them till next meeting.
Okay, now we'll have the approval of the budget transfer by Councilperson Wickerham and the approval of the abstract by Councilperson Wickerham.
I just received the budget transfers. So I have not had a chance to review them. If someone else has reviewed the budget transfers, feel free to motion for an approval.
They were on our desk when we walked in, so no,
Yes.
I have not as
Right,
well.
exactly.
They were received at 4:47.
Right. And that's, the problem is none of us have really had a chance to look at this. So how do we transfer money if we don't have a good understanding?
Can we ask the budget, our finance director who's
You
here?
can.
Hi. So
Can you come to the podium if you wouldn't mind, Christine, so people at home can see you as well? And if you need a copy of this, we have it here for you.
She brought one.
Hi, Christine Ferreira here. Transfer 21 is a transfer from the contingency account to the building capital grant sources account in the amount of $423.87. And that's to reflect the waterfront revitalization plan. And that's for the August 2021 invoice. So the transfer for that. Transfer 22 is from contingency account. So that would be $221.83 from the contingency account. Of that amount, $39.34 is going to code enforcement contractual, and $182.49 is going to clerk contractual. And that's for, to reflect the admin's maintenance for BAS and IPS.
What is BAS and IPS?
Maybe
Pam might be able to kind of expand.
Yes, go ahead, Pam.
BAS means Business Automating Services, which is now GovTech, who runs our software for the town clerk, and the IPS is Individual Property Services, which runs our building department software and provides maintenance and updates and Q&A, give them a call, they answer us.
And Edmunds is the website contractor or,
Also, yes, we have contracted with Edmund Gov for our website. That is totally separate from.
Right.
that.
I asked the town clerk that today. She
So who
assured
is-
me it was
so we
separate.
are not, I mean, is the check going to Edmunds or is it going to GovTech?
Edmund's GovTech is one place.
Oh, all right,
If
okay,
Edmund's GovTech bought or they took on
Okay.
Business Automated Services,
okay,
which is run the BAS and the IPS. It just changed names.
okay, okay.
And I think I just put Edmonds there just for space constraints, so it kind of fits a little
Okay.
clearer on one line. Transfer 23, that's for $7,017.50 coming from contingency going into engineer contractual. That's to reflect the, I don't know how that's pronounced, CHA. Administration fees for Helios and the MRB water system expansion feasibility.
Can I ask a question, maybe to the town clerk and as well as you, Christine, for number 22, the transfer for the Edmonds, was that not budgeted for last year? So, or is that account not have enough because of this transfer? There's obviously not enough money in it to cover it. So do we know, did the cost go up for the code enforcement contract and the clerk contractual?
I
Or
don't believe so. I think it's the same as it was last year.
so there's just not
It's
enough
a
money
contract,
so it
in that
wasn't-
account?
It wasn't budgeted. There wasn't enough budgeted for it? I
Well,
mean,
that's what
I'm
that's what I'm
assuming.
asking.
Yeah,
They
I
were
thought the
bu-
town
they
clerk
were
just said they
budgeted
were
amount-
budgeted.
Amounts in each department.
all right, so we're transferring it out of the contingency into these two accounts.
Correct,
So both of these accounts do not have enough in it to cover what their
Correct.
obligation is.
correct.
And that's my question about what was the budget from last year? How
Right.
did we get to
How did we
where we
get
don't
to
have
where we
enough,
don't
right?
have enough money, especially if we have to pay it again in November and again in December?
As I recall, I don't think we had enough money to pay the Edmunds bill. And we transferred money in from a contingency
That's what
account
it-
to pay that.
Yeah, that's what the question
It's
is.
not an uncommon transfer. If you find a need that you have to buy something, you have to make sure that you've got a contingency account from which to get it,
True,
so that you pay the bill, because that's what's absolute.
right. But I think what Councilwoman Corbin and I are both asking is last year's budget for both the code enforcement line and the clerk line should have had enough money in it to cover a contract that we knew the amount of.
If they had good crystal balls and saw in there last year when the budget was prepared that they would need that amount of money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Is this a regular monthly
This is
charge
reg-
or
no,
is it?
This is a
it's just
regular
vary?
annual charge for that software that we run.
right.
Okay.
So
our
they-
system
They're
on.
upgrading it and,
But
Yeah.
both departments budgeted for that annual fee.
right, that's what I believe I heard her say.
Yeah. So that's the question.
Which hopefully we can
We're gonna,
get
yeah,
an answer to.
okay. Number 23 again, can you repeat that?
Sure, so that's $7,017.50 coming from contingency going into engineer contractual. So that's to reflect CHA, administration fees, Helios and MRB water system expansion feasibility.
My understanding is that engineering fees, especially Helios, are paid for by the company. do we not collect those fees before
Those.
we
those-
pay the bill?
Those fees, we have to, our finance director has to apply to the state under the intervenor funds to be reimbursed.
Not
on any-
Helios.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, you're
Not
right, Helios,
Helios.
correct. They have the escrow account.
Yeah, so
So
why
that would
wouldn't
have
that
to
bill
be-
come out of the escrow account instead of us sending money into?
That is a question that I talked with our previous finance director about. And it was not straightforward to understand how the bookworking works on that. I don't know if anyone else has an answer
So,
on that.
well, Christine, do we have an account, an escrow account for Helios?
Mhm,
We do.
we do.
And it is
Yeah,
where,
for Helios and Forefront.
exactly, so
Yeah.
Helios
It
has
accounts
put,
for contractual and then, sorry, for engineering and for law, so.
right,
there's-
so that's my question here. Why are we taking money out of the contingency account to pay engineering contractual for Helios? When we should be taking money out of the Helios escrow account to pay for the engineering contractual?
Can I answer that? Because that was the way the previous finance director set up the process to pay. And that's just one of the numerous things that we are trying to change. We haven't gotten to that yet. But we want to change so that payment will be paid out of that.
Okay, so my next question would be, so what you'll do, I would assume at the next, you will take money out of the escrow account and put it back into the contingency account?
We will
From the
reimburse
Helios?
ourselves for that cost of writing that check.
Well, it wouldn't go back into the contingency account.
Why not? That's where we're getting it from.
Well, so the contingency account is just kind of acting as kind of like a safeguard for anything unplanned for. So ideally, if you're gonna put anything and you could put it into the actual account, in that case, it would be engineer contractual.
I agree that the Helios, I would like to see that separated out from this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I agree, it should not come out of the contingency if we
Right.
cannot then put a transfer back
Right.
into it. And I
Right.
believe I understand why that can't be done, because that is,
Well,
or it can't
yeah,
be.
I don't
I'm not
understand
in
why it can't be
a
done.
finance
but no,
director, so.
I would like to see number 23 tabled, because I don't understand any of the, and the MRB water system expansion feasibility,
Yeah.
that has,
Let's
We
stick
as a
with the
board-
solar first. Let's get that resolved,
well,
because we've
We're-
got to pay that bill. And the money is there. It's just an account manipulation that was set up by the previous
which
finance
is, I
director.
understand what you're saying, but
Well, if the money's there, let's pay it and then we can debate it. There's nothing to debate. We're not stealing money. We're not paying money to someone who doesn't deserve it. It was a process that was set up by our previous finance director. A lot of what he set up was accurate, but it was cumbersome and difficult.
and that's true. So let me ask the finance director one more question. Is it possible for you to take money out of the Helios escrow account and put it into the engineering contractual account?
I'll look into it.
Can we do that transfer?
I'll look into
Is
that.
there, that's my question. Is there anything restricting you from doing that? Because I just heard you say you could take it out of their escrow account and put it back into the general fund or contingency
Well,
account.
Yeah, I was saying more along the lines, if you're transferring like funds, then to transfer to the engineer contractual rather than to put into contingencies, like once contingency is depleted.
Then that's what I'd like you to do. Take it out of the Helio escrow account and put it into the engineering contractual account.
And then we can pay it out of the.
Out of the engineering contractual account, just like we're gonna do here, but I don't want the money to come out of contingency. Because that's not where it should come out of. So that, I mean,
I agree.
okay, I mean, that's,
The whole tier 3 escrow
Yeah.
account with our previous
Mhm.
one was something that was never able to be explained.
And it
To
just,
us.
yeah. right.
So to sit down with
It's
our new
simple.
director, it seems as though she can put this together so we have it right.
Yeah, because that
We
it
need to
just,
get it right.
yeah. So like I asked, we need to put number 23 on, I cannot vote on that the way it reads. So I don't know what you want to do, Supervisor, but
Which is
I'm happy to,
the Helios is resolved?
no, it's not.
It's not.
Well, I mean, it is, but we can't do the transfer out of, I mean,
We don't know the individual amount.
yeah, we don't know the individual amounts.
So we'd
Well,
like to,
the
Just take this one and put it
the
on till the next
transfer
week.
request is just more of the same that we've been dealing with. Our new finance director
Mhm.
wasn't fully trained. You know that. I tried to get additional training and you opposed it.
No, we
And
didn't.
she, please, you did. And she has been trying to learn the procedure for all these accounts. At the same time, follow my request to simplify the accounts so that the people can read them and understand them. So what she's proposing to do with this budget transfer is nothing new. What will be new is if she does what you want her to do.
What we would like her to do.
Well, you, we, whatever, but bear in mind that what she wants to do now is nothing new. It's the way it's been.
and I understand that, Supervisor, but
Doesn't mean
I'm
it's right.
comfortable approving transfer 21 and 22
Yeah.
and tabling transfer 23 until we can get those items broken out and
Yeah.
we can sit down with you on the escrow. I've been working on it for a couple of years. Well,
I broke a tooth on it. I sent you a text message. You really obviously never read them.
no, I don't.
Why did you text me?
Who's talking?
All right,
All right, everyone's muted.
The corresponding
Jeff
vouchers
is there.
associated with that transfer.
We're gonna have to come out then. Okay, I've got them right here. I've got them right here. But
okay.
all of, never mind, I'll say.
What's next?
Well, we have to approve the 2 transfers. So I move, be it resolved that having audited all of the unexpended but balance of existing a portion of, well, no, I've gotta, yeah, I gotta add this up again.
We'll see if all three of us get this.
Okay. And I.
What'd you get, Counselor?
45.90.
645.90 and 20
Our
cents.
finance director is gonna put us through a test here to see if we can do our math. 645. Why did I get 70?
Hang on. All right. 4, 2.
I probably can't read it. What'd you get?
625.7.
Plus 2.
Six, how much? 40?
625.7.
221
Oh,
point
we got 3.
83.
You guys are doing good.
645.70.
645.70.
645.70. Okay. All right. So we are 645.
You guys enjoying this out there?
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Hey, we're trying to make sure we're doing the right thing with the money.
645.70.
Yep,
Go
okay.
for it.
All right, I move, be it resolved that having audited all of the unexpended fund balances of existing appropriations, I move that transfers 21 and 22 in the amount of $645.70 be approved.
I'll second it.
Good.
Councilman Wolver.
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Wilbraham.
Aye.
Supervisor Tucci.
Aye.
All right, so now we have to go to the abstract. I gotta find CHA in here. Helios.
Oh, that's right.
Helios and where's it go?
Oh, abstract.
There's,
Yeah, one
Yep.
was the last one.
one of them is the last one, where's CHA's?
Oh, you know what? I printed them off.
We printed them all.
Well, no, because
All right, I can't,
here,
oh, there's
it's really
one.
small.
This one is not Helios.
Helios right there.
Oh, all
Helio
right.
CHA,
Okay, what,
is that 1815?
1615. See, you can't even read your own print.
Tiny.
All right, and then there's, 1615, and that is abstract number
903.
Where'd it go? 903. Okay. And then the other one is, what about the admin fees? Where would that one be? Or is,
The total CHA fees I have is $4,427.50.
okay,
Backing out.
I'm just backing out the one.
But this is that one,
Yeah,
1615.
and then we're also
903.
backing out this one. 2780, number 13913. Okay. So,
Could you refresh my memory as to why you're backing those out
because we're not transferring the money
for that particular?
for that, those pieces that money was going to cover
All right,
is not going to be covered in the abstract.
all right.
And
So Councilwoman Wickerham, was that voucher 902 and 903?
not 902,
913.
903 and 913. So we are going to remove those. So for, what's the total amount on that one, Pam, is, where'd we go?
I don't have the total in front of me.
Yeah,
I have 913.
All right, hang
If you
on.
can read it, that you okay?
All right,
Grab a drink.
we
The
have
abstract's right there in the
Yeah.
folder.
44147.94 minus 1615 minus 2780 equals 39,752.94. And then I'm pulling two other ones out because I have questions, or we answer the questions before I make a motion. Would you like to do it?
I'd like to know what your question is.
Okay, there were two vouchers in the abstract when I signed them yesterday. Number 882 for $50 and 883 for $100. They were both written and signed off on by an unapproved signature, and I wanted to pull them out. One was for the technology assistance and one was for the church rental for the MRB. I don't believe that the supervisor's secretary has authorization to submit vouchers under her signature. So those were a question of mine tonight.
The supervisor secretary is not approved to sign for financial transactions. That's why the documents that you have in your possession tonight are not signed by the supervisor secretary. They're signed by the supervisor.
So you changed them today.
I did.
Okay, well, you didn't tell me that, so those were,
You didn't ask.
no. I put them in there. I did ask, that's why I pulled them out yesterday. So the answer, so we do have new ones. Do we know where they are?
You'd have to look
It
at the
should be
numbers on
83.
there.
Did you?
But
tip it?
that
Oh,
is
there they
why
are.
the supervisor should be signing the abstract before we do.
Right.
That
Good
didn't
point.
happen.
No, I know.
All
No,
right.
we got it late because of the holiday.
That didn't happen.
We got it late because of the holiday.
Um,
We got it yesterday,
no,
yesterday
Friday,
afternoon.
Friday.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
The revised one?
Well, I had all of that stuff was there. Yeah. Okay, so I can sign these. So let's move to approve abstract 10-1 vouchers number 5857 through 913, excluding voucher number 903 and 913 for a total amount of $39,752.94.
Can you repeat that number one more time?
$39,752.94.
I'll second it.
Councilman Wolbert,
Aye.
Councilman Corbin,
Aye.
Councilman Wickerham.
Aye.
Supervisor Cusie.
Aye. Just want to make sure you know that the voucher that you declined to pay was presented the way it has historically been presented. And we have not gotten to a procedure to improve that yet. So you're asking us not to pay in a way that we've historically paid, and we'll accept that and move on. Thank you.
Can you explain that? I didn't understand what,
Well, it doesn't make any difference. I'll see you in my office and we'll talk about it. I don't
I'm
want
just
to, I don't
try-
want to take more time on the people here.
Supervisor QC, I am just trying to protect the financial interests of this town.
That's fine, and I appreciate that, and so do the people, but
So
we
you
are,
criticize me for doing
we
it.
are not trying to do anything that hasn't historically been done. And it's as simple as that.
And I'm gonna put the two we pulled out right on top.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mhm.
we can now move on to reports from town board members and departments, and we'll start with Deputy Supervisor Corbin.
Thank you, Supervisor. I attended the Indigenous People Day celebration in the pavilion on Monday. It was well attended. Dr. Obert from SUNY Geneseo gave us a history lesson on Columbus, something, and in my notes, I wrote all capitals should all educate us ourselves with. It was eye-opening to really understand the history of Columbus, and I will leave it at that. Paul Winnie, the Tonawanda Seneca Nation, was also here and he spoke, as well as Rich Hamill, who is a Rush resident. He educated us on wampum and wampum belts. So it was a wonderful event. Supervisor was there as well and participated, so thank you. I met with the vendor on EV charging stations. I will update that under old business. I set up and ran the technology for the water forum so people could participate in person as well as via Zoom at the church. Tier 3 solar update. The archaeological expert Justin Tubiolo filed his report on the DPS website along with a cover letter by attorney Gary Abraham. I shared the extensive report. It is 64 pages long with the town board, and we will be posting it on the town website under Horseshoe Solar. And to truly understand the richness of our area of cultural resources, you really must read this report to begin to understand the 500+ years of the indigenous people who spent their lives in the Genesee Valley and are buried in a 25-mile stretch along the river. That is just a short excerpt at the end of his report. I would like to ask the board if at our next town board meeting, if we would like to invite Attorney Abraham to give us an update, because it's been about that 6-week point where we said that we would meet with him regularly. So I'd like to know.
Sure.
I will set that up.
I have to rely on you to make a statement as to whether or not there is enough updated information, then we shall do that.
I continue to work as the facilitator for the LWRP work group that is focusing on what we call project profiles for the projects that Councilwoman Wickerham is the liaison and the steering committee for. The Waterfront Advisory Committee, we met via Zoom with the engineering firm EDR out of Syracuse and the steering committee, and to continue our work on our write-ups and proposed project profiles for the Transportation Museum, the Rush Riverside Refuge, Monroe County Fair Association, East River Road Water Main, and trails and buildings on the Rush Riverside Refuge. Lastly, I attended the Conservation Board meeting, not as liaison. Councilman Woolever is that, but I came and borrowed a laptop from the library to set up the OWL so that they could now be broadcasting but via Zoom, because everyone loves the OWL so much. I had another meeting, but I came back and I finished and listened to the rest of their meeting, and the Conservation Board sent this town board a statement on October 10th on the Moore rezoning request. I communicated with Councilman Woolever, given he's the liaison to the Conservation Board, and we agreed that I would read the statement tonight. I just need to find it. I was so organized, ready to go.
And this
It does
is, this-
happen.
Mrs. Corbin, is
Mhm.
this the same statement that they submitted to all of the board members?
Yes,
So we've had a chance to.
yes, October 10th. To Gerald QC, Town Supervisor from the Rush Conservation Board, subject more rezoning, October 10th, copied to the Rush Town Board members. This statement is submitted by the Rush Conservation Board in regard to the proposed rezoning of land on West Henrietta Road from residential to limited industrial. At the present time, for reasons explained below, the Conservation Board opposes the rezoning requested by property owner Mr. Jack Moore pending further review of the environmental implications. It is noted that the proposal under consideration specifically states the owner intends to have the parcel serviced by sanitary sewers. We suggest that because of this, the issue of sewers is not severable from the question of the rezoning itself, and therefore both issues must be examined by the town before approval of the proposal could be contemplated. As you know, there are currently no sewers in the town of Rush other than at the New York State School of Industry. Therefore, the type of system envisioned by the developer and its implications to the town's environment are crucial considerations. The addition of sewers in a rural town creates myriad layers of environmental issues, including potential effects on development, farmland, open spaces, and forests. To our understanding, the Moore proposal has been submitted to the Rush Planning Board for review and comment, and the developer and engineer have appeared at a planning board meeting. The Rush Conservation Board respectfully requests that we also be granted the opportunity to meet with the developer and engineer to review and discuss the plans and to address questions related to environmental issues, followed by submission of our comments to the town board. We further request that the town board postpone further consideration of the rezoning proposal until after the Conservation Board has had this opportunity and has provided its input. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
As sitting there, not as liaison, but as a town board member and resident, they asked me why it wasn't referred to them, and I did not have an answer. I said, this is new to us. I don't know why it wasn't, and
It's not required.
well, it's not required. And neither is it to the planning board.
Right, exactly. It wasn't
So
required to go to the
I
planning
think
board.
it would be an excellent thing to follow suit and have the conservation, have them do, if they are willing,
They like to look at everything.
they like, and they do look at everything.
John, do you see any reason to not include them in the distribution of such material?
Well, I think they already are included in the
Mhm.
distribution. I think they're
No,
requested. that
they've gotten nothing on it. Nothing's been given to them on the more rezoning.
Well, they will be getting it, then I should say, on the seeker side of things. 'Cause we
Right.
historically always include the Conservation Board as an interested agency.
Right.
We circulate to all of our internal boards.
Right,
I understood the question more to be that they wanted them to appear in
right,
front of the
me too.
Conservation Board. That is,
They would like them
Yeah.
to be,
That's
they would
also-
like to invite them to their next meeting.
right. So that's, I guess, up to it may not necessarily even be up to the town board as much as it may be up to the applicant to decide whether they want to.
One, two. and
They also they have no documentation on the project, so they would like documentation on the.
Right, and the town has very little, if any, documentation. I mean, at this point, we
It's
have
just
a
a
part one of
rezoning
an
request.
EAF, we have a concept plan.
Yeah.
And we have, I believe, a letter submission and application document regarding their analysis of the town's comprehensive plan, but that's all we have at this point. I
Right,
think when we
it's a
get to
rezoning
the
request.
agenda item, that might be a topic of conversation about what else the town,
Well, because as the lead agency, we do the secret.
correct. Correct.
I don't see any reason why we should not honor their request.
Entirely up to the town board. There's no legal requirement to not do it or do it, as the case may be. If you want to get the input of the conservation board, then you can suggest to the applicant to show up at their next meeting and present.
Yeah, if you'd like, I can make a resolution to refer it to the conservation board as we did with the planning board.
And can we do the seeker review
separately.
No, I mean, can we start doing the seeker review now? I mean, or next?
Well, that
We
would
need-
fall under the more part of old business, I think.
Well, I mean, but we're talking about it now. So I'm gonna go with the Conservation Board's request is if the more developers would like to come in and talk to them. But we have designated ourselves as lead agency, correct? So we should be starting the seeker process.
Yes,
Okay, so, but we can do those simultaneously.
yes.
Then, okay. As long as we start the seeker process, I don't have a problem with doing a simultaneous, let them go present to the Conservation Board.
And I, again, will discuss that more under old business and I will answer to what you just said. So I'd like to make a resolution to refer the Moore rezoning project to the Conservation Board at their November meeting.
I'll second that.
What?
Do you need a resolution?
We did that for the planning board.
Okay.
Supervisor, you seconded that?
I did.
Okay.
Supervisor Wickerham? I'm sorry. I'm out of order now. Councilman Wilbur,
Aye.
Councilman Corbin,
Aye.
Councilman Wickerham.
Until we have a discussion about starting the seeker process, I cannot vote on this. No, or abstain. I don't care which one you choose.
Supervisor Cusie.
Aye.
Which one are you choosing?
Until I get an
Is
answer.
it
on the
is it
seeker
a no or an
process.
abstain?
It's a no.
That's all we need to know.
So it can be.
And that's all I have.
All right, how about Councilperson Wickerham? Do you have a report?
Well, I have, yeah, quite a few things, actually. We had a lot of, attended a water information meeting on Wednesday, last Wednesday night.
Sure.
There were a couple of things that came up in that were of a surprise to me. We received a request to pay a bill for $13,900 for a feasibility study that we have not had a chance to discuss at the board table. We were asked via email to make votes on that, and there were at least 3 of us that said that this needed to be a discussion before we approved it. We were at that meeting the other night, and I learned that you had already signed the contract. That was a disappointment to me, because we have not had a chance to talk about what this is all about or what this means. So I would like to see at least a discussion at some point put on the table about this water project feasibility that you presented the other night. I've had some conversation or some contact regarding the finance directors working from home quite a bit. I've tried calling her a couple of times and I do get her phone voicemail. But because she's not in the office, she doesn't get it until a day or 2 later. My question is there a required amount of time that we are expecting the finance director to be in the office so that staff and board members have access to the information that they need? I also learned that we're paying for office supplies for personal equipment. I have a question about that. Is that something that we're allowed to do? I'm a little concerned. I learned today that we have transportation is being provided by a member of the town board's family to the finance director to and from, or at least to work. And I'm concerned that if something were to happen, we would be held liable for that. So I do have a concern about that. There was also something in the notes about a lawsuit that I have not learned about, but it was we've hired an attorney. I guess I'd like some updates on all of that stuff,
Which would you like me to approach?
all of it.
I can't talk at all of it. I can only take it one piece at a time.
Okay,
Which would you like?
whatever you're comfortable with going first, but
Supervisor, can I just ask a quick question? Anything to do with employees? Should that be an executive session? I'm new to all this,
that's
so.
okay.
I don't know that I was gonna discuss employees.
Well, even Councilwoman Wickerham bringing up employee issues. I didn't know
Well,
if that is.
if Councilman Person Wickerham wants to do that and continues to do that, I will remind her of the prohibition on that.
I just,
But I don't intend to talk about people.
Okay,
We can talk about the lawsuit.
Mhm.
Which lawsuit was that?
Brown versus Town of Rush. I don't know what that is.
All right, the lawsuit that is involved in Brown versus Town of Rush involves a husband and wife from the,
Supervisor, if I
Yeah.
could just interrupt for 1 second. Beyond discussing the identification of the lawsuit itself, I would suggest an executive session on the specifics of that lawsuit. So if
I'm
you
not
wanna
gonna
go
talk
into-
about specifics.
Well, I wouldn't even talk, generally speaking, beyond identifying the name of the lawsuit and that it exists, I would suggest that the discussion should be held in executive session. It's voluntary, so it's up to the town board whether it wants to discuss it in public or not, but that is an option to discuss pending litigation. I was unaware it was actually filed. I was aware of the claim that had been made.
It has been filed.
Okay, so in that regard, it's pending litigation. We can go into executive session on that point if you want to do so.
It's up to Councilperson Wickerham.
Be up to the full majority of the board. If a motion wants to be introduced to discuss that point, can be.
I'll move to enter into executive session.
can we
Okay,
do that
Do I
at
have a
the-
second?
Can we do that at the end of
can-
tonight, though? We have a long meeting.
we can,
I mean, I don't know. It's my
It's
opinion.
entirely up to you guys.
if we postpone it, the decision could be made before we even talk about it.
Okay.
Let's talk about the end of the meeting,
Let's talk about what?
at the end of the meeting. Executive
We
session.
have a executive sessions scheduled.
We do,
We do.
Yes,
we do.
yes.
Oh.
It came as a result of my conversation with our attorney for the town.
Oh, well, it wasn't on our.
You don't
agenda.
remember, John?
What's it regarding, Supervisor?
Oh, I can't talk about that because
Is it attorney-client or is it executive session?
attorney-client.
Okay,
No,
then
it's
that's something
different.
different. Then that doesn't need to be disclosed, the subject matter of
Okay.
it. Very good.
So are we going to wait until the end of the meeting to enter into executive session to discuss my questions?
I agree with that.
On the lawsuit side, there
Yeah.
were several questions, some of which are not. So
Okay.
the issue, the
That one.
question about the meeting last Wednesday is not part of the litigation. It's
Okay.
separate.
Okay, that's number two.
Talk about the meeting,
Pardon me?
the meeting,
The meeting.
the MRB water meeting and the signing of a contract.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that up.
Mhm.
You should be aware, as I've been aware for several years, that about 23 or 24% of our residents do not have good water. And in fact, a percentage of them don't have any water. And they don't have good water when they have water. And if you understand how many houses have been built in the area where there is that problem in the past few years, you'd understand that it is a very, very serious problem. So having heard all of that, I won't read this whole fact sheet, but I can tell you that I had talked to the previous supervisor about that problem when it was not in its infancy, but it wasn't as strong as it is today. And she said she would look into it. And a couple of people have told me that they talked to her and she said she would look into it, but she never did. In the summer of 21, I received more calls than usual from people that had either run out of water or they couldn't wash. I had one woman say, I don't even buy white clothes anymore because every time I wash them, they come out with yellow splotches on them and orange splotches on them. And I said, this is crazy for the 21st century. So we've got little kids in a lot of new houses and they have to carry bottled water. They have to go to laundromats. I had one person tell me they lived there for 3 years and they've had to have a plumber come and replace the fixtures every year because the fixtures deteriorate with the water conditions. Well, I won't bore you with more detail. I have more, but I won't bore you with more detail. I know that John has received one approach from an attorney threatening to sue. We don't know for what, but nonetheless, that's how distraught people are. Many think it's the town's responsibility to prevent property sales if the water in the area is known to be a problem. I don't know how we can do that. Maybe John has some idea, but I don't know how we can do that. But they're holding us responsible for their water problems. And it's not one or two. Believe me, it's not one or two. It's a lot of people, couple hundred or more. I'm sorry?
Do you have a list of those people who have complained? Because you haven't shared that with us.
Would you like me to share everything that's been complained to me over the past 10 years?
Well, not 10 years, but at least during
Well, okay.
my tenure here. Yeah.
Okay,
I
well,
mean, especially when it concerns spending money. If people are complaining and we're thinking of,
well, I'll get to the
resolving
money,
the
I'll get to the
problem.
money spending in a minute. So, some of them in their time of frustration have threatened to sue the town. We don't know for what, but that's what they're just distraught. I talk to women who cry on the phone, who can't give their infants drinking water out of the faucet, who can't wash their clothes out of the faucet. This is not a good situation. When I was informed of the CARES Act program and the permitted fund uses, I knew I had to apply and get some of that money. And along with awarded money came the use restrictions. One of the allowed uses was public water district upgrades, not taxpayer money, but public water system upgrades from the CARES Act funding. I soon, after talking with several people, one of them was our highway superintendent, because I know that he goes around putting water mains in all over the area. I assembled a team of experts to discuss what steps could be considered. Present at that meeting was the attorney for the town, the highway superintendent, representatives of the Monroe County Water Authority, the town engineer. I chose MRB because the town engineer and the highway superintendent recommended them, saying they're the kahunas in the area for doing this. So they're the ones you should be inviting and talking to. After an hour meeting of brainstorming, it was decided by that group, spoken verbally, that a public water meeting should be scheduled for residents. This group decided the meeting should be an informational session and for the residents in the town board, so that we would all have the same advantage of starting on the same page with the same knowledge base. Because I considered the situation to be an emergency, and I'll debate that in court or anywhere you want me to debate it, because it is an emergency for the people who are impacted. I decided to get this group of experts assembled as soon as possible to keep the momentum going. What good would a meeting be next year? We need to get going on this, because I'm told that there are going to be federal funds available to be used for such matter. And we've already received the CARES Act funding Why not use that as a seed to get started? I then started looking around and saying, how can we get away with this without postponing it? And why, what do I mean by postponing it? My God, I asked 2 years ago for the comprehensive plan to be done. Is it done? We're still waiting. I don't want these people to wait 2 more years. I asked for the 1911 house to get going a full year and a half ago. Is it done? We just are getting a new roof put on it, but there's a whole lot of work to be done yet. I considered this to be an emergency, and I didn't want this to be a can that we kick down the road for 2 more years, because that's what we have a habit of doing. So I looked into exceptions to competitive bidding by the state controller. When does it apply? It applies for, that's not my highlighted copy, but it applies for legal services, architectural services, and engineering services. So I took the chance that to get this meeting scheduled, to not have to go through 3 months of debate, get it scheduled, get it going, and let's see what comes out of it. We don't even know yet if we're going to go to the step 2, which is, okay, folks, you've heard the presentation. What do you want to do now? That's not been done yet, but we're going to do it because it's important. We can't let residents of our town suffer with water that isn't drinkable or isn't there. That's all I have to say at this point.
It's admirable that you believe that this is an emergency situation.
I do, thank you.
However, you started researching things and making decisions on things, and we were not informed. It would have been very nice if you had just kept us in the loop so that when we get $13,900 bills to
That's not a
sign.
$13,900 bill.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. I asked the town clerk to take that out of the abstract and she said she couldn't.
You signed a contract with MRB for $13,900.
The amount in the abstract is for $2,700 and some dollars.
And never mind the amount and what it is,
Oh,
but
okay.
you haven't kept us informed.
Because every time I try to keep you informed, it turns into a debate. I'm not here to debate. I'm here to serve the
It's
people.
supposed to turn into a debate. We were all.
When people's health and welfare is at stake, there's no debate. It's take care of the people.
Supervisor, people have been living in this town on wells for 100 years. When those people
Correct.
bought their homes, they knew that they were on well water. That was a part of the deal when they bought their homes. I feel bad that they're having trouble, but there are other ways. The DEC has all kinds of programs and services to help people with their water wells. What could be done is, where are those homes? Because I don't know where these homes are that have complained to you.
You were shown on the maps last
No,
week at the
you showed
meeting.
us where the districts might be, but I don't know where the lady who can't give her baby water through the spigot is.
There's more than
I
one.
don't know where the people who can't do their laundry are.
One.
Well, and that's what I'd like to know, because if they're up near the mine, what if it's the mine's fault that this water is bad?
The mine has been litigated in the past.
Exactly. And then
And
DEC
There was no
permits require them.
decision
Well,
lodged against them.
and that's the thing. Those people have recourse if that's what the problem is. What I'm having an issue with is the fact that we did not know any of this until we got a letter. Someone gave me a letter that said, I just got this. What is it about? And it was a letter from the town of Rush telling them that that we were exploring public water in their area and there was going to be a meeting. That is what I am having an issue with.
That's not totally accurate, but
Well,
I'll
it's
accept it
kind
because
of
I don't want to
really
go
accurate.
on all night.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I'm having an issue with.
Well, what's your issue with that?
We were not kept informed. of what was going on that we were gonna have to be making decisions on eventually.
Well, I'll tell you what. This is how important it is to me. You can ask the attorney sitting right there. You can ask the town engineer who's not here. You can ask John Hinman, who did the research for the MRB group. And you can ask Steve Savage from the Monroe County Water Authority. I'll pay the freaking bill. That's how important it is to me. If this
Jerry,
board doesn't
okay.
want to pay it, I'll pay it.
That's not the
Just to
point.
be
That
in
is
the
the
loop.
point.
Just-
This is an emergency situation.
Okay, if that's how you feel, but we need to be kept
Just
in the loop.
that's all. I mean, if we could send out a letter to all the residents that
I
need
kept you
water.
in the loop on the 1911 house. How long have we been going after that?
Well,
I kept you in the loop on the comprehensive plan. How long have we been going after that?
the
This
19
isn't such a matter as that. This is a matter where people don't have water, or the water that they have, they can't drink. They can't wash with it. This is an emergency, not something that we want to kick the damn can down the road for 6 months or 2 years.
It's going to take 3 years for a water district to even, I mean, from
But
the.
so are you
Yeah.
saying we should not have done any of this?
I
Just tell us what's going on.
We
So
know,
the- but the
Mrs.
im-
Corbin,
the im-
we're not.
the im-
What we're saying
it's
is we knew
Council- it's
nothing about it.
Councilwoman Corbin, and we now
It's
have,
Deputy
no,
Supervisor
it's just
Corbin.
Councilwoman Corbin. I sat there as a resident, as many people. I learned so much that I did not know. I sat down with Highway Superintendent Mark David, because I've had phone calls and emails learning. I didn't know, I wasn't, but what I learned, it's
And none
a
of that,
potential for these people. This is what they have to do. It's not in our hands at this point. It's in their hands, from what I learned from the engineers, if
Whose
they
hands?
want to petition
well,
to, for a water,
if
isn't that
you-
what you learned? That's
if
what I,
you've
that's what we
received
learned.
emails from people, we would love to have those shared with us so that we also are up to date.
But
That's our point.
keeping, as Supervisor said, I'm sure you don't share everything. It's not that we're keeping anything a secret. The focus is on getting water for people in town. And this was
True.
I knew nothing about it. I went to Mr. Superintendent David. He gave me what he had. I sat there and listened to engineers and experts, and now understand it's up to these residents to petition us, the town board, if they want to. Who would have known that before that? I had no idea. The people didn't know it. Maybe other people in contract and things like that know it, but I had no idea how the process worked. So
And not-
if you don't agree with what happened, I understand. But at this point, moving forward to continue the process, do you feel you learned from that? Because that's what I learned
Well,
from those
Is the
sessions.
MRG, is their bill 13,900 or 2,700?
The bill that was in the abstract, which Ms. Wickerham doesn't like to acknowledge, is for $2,700.
They did all the engineering work for $2,700.
No, they didn't do all their engineering work for $2,700. They prepared for that meeting to present that data to the people.
So they didn't do engineering. They just did from existing engineering.
I'm not an
Well,
engineer,
but-
so I can't answer that question.
Well, what's the bill for $13,900?
There is no bill for $13,900. How many times do I have to say that?
There is a contract here for $13,900.
But that has not
you
been
signed.
completed. That has not, I told the town clerk, I signed it in error. Can I take it out of the abstract? She said, no.
Yeah, that's correct. It had to be intact because it was already submitted to pay the bill.
And the voucher isn't what I'm worried about.
I know.
The voucher was a
You shouldn't worry
result,
about anything. I'll pay it.
was a
I'll
result
pay
of
it.
the contract.
It's important to me for people to get water and to start now, not 6 months or 6 years from now. I'll pay it.
I don't think you'll be allowed to do that, but that's a
I
generous
hadn't
offer.
heard any pushback from our
That's a
attorney for the
generous
town.
offer. Okay.
Okay,
My
what?
question, my request is that I would like to be kept informed on things of this significance. Because as you are saying, this is a very significant problem, what you are telling us. The town board should be advised of those things as decisions get made, as things come before us or come before you. You are saying this is an emergency. We all need to know about that. That's all I'm requesting, is that you bring us into the conversation at the very earliest that you can do that. And to schedule a meeting with engineers and the Monroe County Water Authority, you had it in your head, you scheduled that meeting, but you did not tell us that you had done that.
That was,
So those are, you had these projects in mind.
let me give you an example of why I didn't do that. Because no one knows more about open meetings law than you do. And for me to inform the whole board that that meeting was going to take place would have required the putting the agenda, or not the agenda, but the date together. And everybody, oh, I can't make it that date. I can't make it that date. Oh, I can only make it at 10 p.m. that night. And that would push it way into the future.
That's not what I was saying. I
But
said.
that's what I'm saying.
Well, I didn't say you had a board meeting scheduled. You had just keep us informed that you're looking into
Do you
this.
really think
and the
that if I
subject-
had told you that, you wouldn't have wanted to come? Do you really think that?
It all depends on my work. Yeah,
See, it all depends.
yeah. I mean, if possible, yeah, we would love to be involved in it.
Well, all
Just
right.
like the meeting with Senator Baroque.
And just like the meeting with the
Right.
Foster Brooks engineer that you were at and we knew
Right.
nothing
I mean,
about, so.
and
There you
that-
go. There's a
Meetings-
good example.
meetings-
That was his
Councilwoman
meeting.
Wickerham, we all
Yeah.
can come up with different examples,
But that
But-
was his meeting.
but you've had them as well.
Yeah.
That we weren't invited to and we didn't know about
And
and
what-
we were
when
never
was that?
told. The Foster Brooks
No.
meeting you had in here.
I was
I
I
was,
was a guest of the supervisor and the
the supervisor invited you,
I don't think so.
it was his meeting.
but did
with
the
them.
supervisor invite you?
The
No, the
developer did.
supervisor, the developer
developer did.
did. But
Yeah.
again, we're arguing
Yeah.
over different examples. We're never gonna come to agreement
Yeah.
apparently. But
But
do we
these are-
all agree that water is an issue? Yes. So let's do what we can for the people and see what their next step is. From what I learned,
They have to
Again,
put together.
they have, this is the work that, and now that information, however it's going to get out to them, needs to get out to them.
Tonight may be the last discussion of this, depending on how the people respond. Because if enough people say, no, I'm not interested, that's it, all done. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't take the attempt to provide them with water.
And Councilman Wickerham, you and I looked at the East River Road extension because that work had to be done for what we are doing for the LWRP. We now actually are a leg up because we actually have that map from MRB showing where the connection is that we can now add to our project profile to hopefully get some more funding. So yes, it's not a win-win, I get it, but we actually were able to get something out of it totally unexpected when you and I looked at that map together and we're like, wow, look at that, it's right there. Maybe this won't be such a big lift that we need to do. We now have an idea, okay, it starts here, it starts there. Some engineering work has already been done on it.
It's all done.
It's been done. I mean, even before that, we had the
It's
maps
all done.
before that.
I just had one very
Yeah.
simple question. How can someone who claims to be so tuned into the people not know about the water problem?
Well, because
I'm
you don't
curious.
share that with us.
Because I didn't share it with you. It's not my water problem. It's the people's water problem.
Well,
And if you listen to the people, you will hear about it.
well, and as this, I would hope that when the supervisor gets an email from a constituent that has an issue that the town board is going to be talking about, he would share that with the town board members. So when we don't get emails or phone calls from a constituent complaining about that, I'm not walking up and down Works Road or up and down number 6 Road, asking people how their water is, because I have no reason to believe that there's an issue. But if I were to have gotten a copy of an email, I would have educated myself on the water issues in our town and what the extent of that was. But I wasn't given the opportunity to learn about it.
But that's not answering my question.
I think it was.
I don't think so. How can you be a town board member in a town
I just told you.
claiming exposure to so many people who want to do this and not be aware of water problem? People, those people down there, they don't give a rat's patoot about Jack Moore's proposal to do anything. They just want water to give their kids, water to wash their clothes, water that won't ruin their appliances. That's all they want. Somebody's got to listen to them.
Well, and people will listen to them if they know that they're saying something. That's what I think I just explained.
And that's why
have
I
not been
assembled the
called or
board that I
emailed.
assembled, because they knew what to tell these people. Nobody else did.
Okay. Okay,
What's next?
that's it. That's it.
Okay. Are you finished with your report?
I might as well be.
Okay. Councilperson Woolleyberg, how about you?
I attended the MRB water study meeting at the church. It was very informative.
Thank you. I didn't hold the meeting because I don't know enough to talk about in front of those people.
It seemed like the basic rate per household is gonna be somewhere in the $2,200 to $2,500 range.
A year.
That
for
was
38
surprising
years.
to me.
For 38 years.
Did I hear there was like a threshold that the state didn't really want you to go
Yes.
above? That was like $850.
That all depends on demographic data that the state controller would collect from the district area to make that determination. So if you were to, the bottom line is, if you were to look at the town of Rush, all those impacted by this problem, we probably wouldn't be able to get any aid because our
It's too high.
income levels are too high. But if you broke that down, I'm sorry,
there's a radio on or something back there.
No, Mr. Cove is listening, streaming what you're sending.
I wish Mr. Kolb would stop disturbing the rest of the audience, please. Thank you. If we broke that out down into districts where it didn't include things like the mansions and Schofield Road and Boulder Creek Drive and the Middle Road, or not Middle Road, but Telephone Road, that would go way down. But we don't know yet because that's to come if we go forth with this.
If the residents put together a district.
If the residents want to do it, then we can engineer districts that could apply for aid.
And that was a very interesting thing to learn. I would have thought it would have been the same, but that it can be very specialized to a certain location and number of houses.
Yeah. That's what I learned.
Good. I learned that also because I didn't know it. Anything else?
That's it.
How about Town Clerk Busey?
I do have a few things. The Rush Fire District did file their 2022 preliminary budget with my office, and a copy was delivered to the finance director. The preliminary 2022 budget has been filed with me for the town of Rush. The Monroe County Board of Elections has changed their policy. Town clerks will no longer be assisting in election night. The polling sites will be scheduled by the Board of Election, inserting the reading cards and paying all the poll workers so that their reimbursement doesn't have to come from the towns back and forth and come back to the town from the county. I believe there's something else on the agenda later that I'd like to add to regarding the information shared. So when you get to that, I have to discuss that with you. And I believe that is it.
Supervisor, can I just answer a couple of questions?
You sure can.
Town clerk, so right now I know I've seen on the abstract where we're paying, is it poll watchers after election? So that comes out of a budget, I think, under your office. Are you saying that we get reimbursed from the county for that, the old way of doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
We
so-
we pay them first,
Right,
and then I submit a bill to the county, and then the county pays us back. What is not paid for is their training classes. If they train during the year, depending on if we have a primary or not, anytime that they take those classes, we don't pay for that. We let the county pay for that at the end of the year.
okay, thank you. That's all, Supervisor.
Thank you. Town clerk, are you
Yes, so-
complete? Okay, thank you very much. How about Attorney Mancuso?
No report.
How about, I know the assessor isn't with us, and the finance director has left us. And code enforcement officer Tracy is not with us. So let's go to building inspector John Limbeck.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you well.
Okay, I've got a short report tonight, not because we're not busy, but just I only had two real items to report on. Since the last board meeting, I've issued 11 new building permits. This includes 3 new single-family dwellings and another large addition on a home. And on my desk and under review right now is yet another single-family dwelling and an addition with an interior swimming pool. Quite a bit of work going on. I think we're getting close to $3 million worth of work under contract in the town. I'm still working with the residents who obtained building permits in 2020. I'm finding that some of the projects are complete and people forgot to call me for a final inspection. And most of them are still in progress, most of which are waiting for materials or contractors to return to finish the project. So I think we've got a pretty good handle on it. But again, we're continuing to get permits on a very steady basis. The second item, Pam Busey and I have been working on the revised building permit application form. And the proposed version has eliminated some of the information that did not seem to be needed by anyone. And we've added some information that we do need. It also has 2 pages of general building permit information that is intended for the applicant to retain. And the intent of that is to inform them of what information and or documents might be required to accompany the building permit. A lot of people don't understand that the state requires that I have to have stamped drawings if the project is in excess of $20,000. They also require that I get specific insurance certificates from their contractors. So it's information about that. Some of the required typical inspections that take place and some specific asbestos regulations. And there's also an affidavit of exemption that owners need to sign and have notarized if they're performing the work themselves. That is, without any contractor participation. The state's very emphatic that we have workers' compensation information from contractors, whether they have multiple employees or if they're a sole proprietor. And if people are doing the work themselves, then we have to know that. So what we're looking for right now is for the town board approval of the new form so that we can start implementing that. And I'm hoping that everybody's received it and has had an opportunity to look at it. And I asked that the attorney look at that affidavit of exemption to make sure he's okay with that. That did come from another municipality where they're using it. So Those are the two items I wanted to report on tonight. And then if there's comments or questions, I'd be glad to take those.
Thank you, John.
I have a question.
Fire.
John, has Attorney Mancuso had a chance to look and review not yet?
Not yet.
Okay,
No.
all right. So you're not expecting us to vote on this yet until we get his review?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Attorney Mancuso, you're saying you have not gotten this? Because
I haven't reviewed it yet.
Oh, you received it though. You just
Yeah,
haven't. I
not
just
yet.
want to make sure.
Yeah.
Do you have, before our next town, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I know this will really help both the clerk, the deputy clerk, and the building inspector, if we can get this approved by the town board.
At the next meeting.
At
that
the
would be
next
great.
meeting.
Not a problem.
Yeah, okay.
John, I looked it over. You're more of an expert than I am on anything, but
Yeah.
so it's, it looked great to me. So thank you for all the work, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
All right. Thanks, folks.
We will move on to Highway Superintendent Mark David, who isn't with us, but he gave me a complete fill-in on what he's been doing with his crew. They have been doing ditch work and culvert replacement under driveways and other kinds of stuff that just is pickup work, needs to be done, could get worse if it wasn't taken care of, and he's been doing that kind of stuff. Pat Stevens, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
You have a report.
Yes, the Recreation Department is doing extremely well. The pavilion continues to be rented out, and we've actually added some additional programs that we work with Lifespan on, and we'll go into next year. And the pavilion will be used every single day for programs that they will be offering or that I will be offering with them, along with programs that had already been going on at the time. My department is doing extremely well. The after-school program is gone up 50% more in capacity. As far as my budget, I haven't really heard anything other than that there was a cut in my revenues made, I believe, by Catherine. So I'm not sure what that means or why that was. It seems like everything is going well with recreation. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, and I haven't heard anything more about that. But otherwise, everything's been fine.
You and I talked about that, and I apologize to you because I have not had a chance to talk to her why she said that, but I will tomorrow. And I will let you know why.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yep, that's it. Does anyone else have any questions?
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Pat.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Deputy Supervisor, does the library have a report?
The library director said she has no report.
Okay. Then last but not least is Sue Me, our historian.
I usually don't see her, and she's there, but I do not see her tonight.
Okay. Then we will move on to old business. And the first item of old business is the rezoning application for Jack Moore for 69 acres on West Henrietta Road from residential R30 to light industrial. And one of the reasons we are going to talk about that tonight is the board should have some idea of what they want him to provide us with before we get to the final movement of his application. Have any of you thought about what it is that you'd like from him?
Didn't know we were going there tonight.
Yeah, we just received, are we closing the public hearing tonight? Because it was open to written
It was
comments
closed.
until
It was
today.
already closed. We closed it 3 weeks ago.
But we left it open for written comment till tonight.
Right, but the public hearing is closed.
But we left it open
open.
for written, so do we have to close that part of it?
No.
Okay, so I was just trying to clarify. We received today, because today was the last day for any written comments, a package. I would like to be able to take that home and digest all of that along with the information and my notes, and then I will have questions for you.
Well, the question shouldn't be for me. The question should be directed at the applicant. Because it's, if you think the applicant shows on his plan that he's got a 6-inch sewer main and you think it should be 12 inches,
Well,
that's your
we're not
opportunity to ask that.
voting on the projects that are we're not voting on the concept plan. All we're voting on is the rezoning of a property. So
I
I'd
use
like,
that as a simple example that could be understood. So is there anything on the rezoning of the property that you would like the applicant to produce before we move it forward?
I'd like to review all of the comments submitted.
And where are those comments?
We received a packet today.
It was sitting here when I walked in.
Right, yeah,
and
we were, yeah, exactly. Yeah. we
It's
all
in
got
a, it's in a
packet.
folder.
Yeah.
From
so-
the town
Yeah,
clerk.
so I would like to be able to go home and read everything that was submitted and then,
So it is a combination of the
yeah.
people who are opposed.
Yeah, the
It's-
whole.
It's in the manila folder, Supervisor.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
It wasn't labeled as such.
no, but it
Well,
was.
I didn't think that I needed.
No, I guess
So
it's
label
not
it,
there.
yeah, I mean,
All right.
it was a whole, yeah. So I would like to be able to take this pile of papers home and read it. And then, so at the next meeting,
that's fair. And John, do you have anything to add regarding?
Only procedurally speaking, since the town board declared intent to act as lead agency, once the board reviews all that information, the board will just have to make a decision about whether it wants to proceed or not with the secret review, because that is obviously going to be a very labor intensive, cost intensive process over, a period of months. And so if the board wants to proceed, then we'll have to coordinate with the applicant, ask the applicant to provide whatever information the town board is looking for as part of that process.
well, and that's how I thought we were gonna determine what we needed from the applicant by going through the secret process. That's how you determine what more information you would like. So that's why I asked earlier whether we were going to simultaneously. So how do we start the secret process? Can I
It's
do
already
that?
been started.
Okay.
Yep.
So when do we talk about it here?
Well, I think this board has to decide if it's even going to go there, Councilwoman Wickerham. We may not even get to that, depending on the vote of the board.
Yes, I see,
Well,
this is
there
a
won't be,
confusing
so
process.
the board, I think, will more caucus and decide whether or not, because again, it is purely discretionary. So if the board doesn't want to proceed with the matter, then it will simply just not proceed. If the
Okay,
board wants to proceed, then the only thing that I need to understand from the board is if there's a particular, issue and in particular area of environmental concern that you are thinking about,
Okay.
we can facilitate that. If it's,
Okay.
I know that the applicant has already represented a traffic impact study is being prepared to one of the members of the public's question earlier.
Yeah.
That process is being done. So what
Yeah.
happens is that the developer's consultant coordinates with the New York State DOT. And so a traffic impact study is prepared and reviewed by our own independent consultants. And then we provide feedback collectively.
Right.
So that's one item. There's probably many more items the board may be thinking about, and we can talk about those particular items, similar to like a Helios or a Forefront geotechnical studies.
Right.
but
things of that nature.
you brought up the traffic study and so did someone sitting here. This is a concept plan.
Right.
Nothing is set in stone. How do you do a traffic study? Do you do a traffic study and say, yes, I'm gonna have a trucking company and it's gonna have,
So, and I can explain, it is a rezoning of a parcel, but there is a concept associated with it. So the board as a lead agency is going to be looking at the hypothetical end use as has been represented by the developer. We can't speculate about what might be on the site, but if he's making representations about his hypothetical development, an engineering firm, a gas station, a truck, a trucking company, those things can be studied. And so how the traffic impact study will look at it is there is an ITE manual that has a bunch of data that's been accumulated over many decades. Particular uses have assigned traffic counts that you can utilize to sort of gauge what a development might look like in terms of adding traffic to the roadway network. So they will look up in the manual that a trucking distribution center is hypothetically going to have this many vehicle trips per day, and they're also gonna look at and then they're gonna look at the network itself, you know, what does the network look like here? Taking into account COVID may have, you know, impacted the traffic patterns and things of that nature, and so they will do that traffic study. The town can either use CHA or retain an independent traffic consultant to look at that information. The DOT will certainly have feedback as well, on that one particular item.
And that's, I think from what I heard and myself have concerns with is that I understand there's all this data out there, but it all has to be looked at because we as a board, if depending on the process, needs to say no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, and maybe the owner isn't willing to. My question, I would like to ask Councilwoman Wickerham, I heard you at the beginning, right before the meeting started, that you have visited a trucking company. I don't know if it's the one that's proposed there. And again, there's information that I don't know about that I think that would be a very helpful thing for us to be invited to this trucking company so that we can learn about it.
Well, I took it upon myself.
I know, but if
I
you,
took it
if you
upon
if you
myself
could
to
share that
call
with
and
us,
say,
it would be great.
well,
Well, I don't know what trucking company it is. I don't have that information. It only says it's a distribution center. I don't even think it says the trucking company. So there's nothing in the application that we
No,
would, so that's what I would like to know from the owner of who is this company, who, you know, and then I would like to go visit to see what they have, just as Councilwoman Wickering. I think it would be helpful for us to be able to see what might potentially be being built there. Is that possible? Do I ask the?
Well, I called the company itself and
I know,
said,
but I
yeah,
don't know the
oh,
company. Can you share that
It's
information with
Lakeville
me?
Trucking. It's at the regional
But
market.
if you have that, can you
Yeah.
email
Oh, yeah.
that to all of
Yeah,
us?
I
That
can
would
do
be
that.
great. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that the owner would be happy to
Absolutely,
sit down
they
with us.
should
He
be.
was very accommodating to me.
But if you have that, it will save
Yeah.
us from looking it all
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, I can do that.
And a simple question I had, I won't go through all that I had, but I'll give you an example. You're the liaison to the fire department. Is there a point where the fire department assesses what's being constructed and makes a decision that, boy, we better get another piece of equipment for that?
When they go to
look
the
over
planning board.
They look over all the plans.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah, when it goes to
Decide
the
what they-
planning board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Planning board
And,
gets a copy of the plans.
you know, we've got to be careful of that because we don't want it costing the citizens
Yeah.
more money.
Well, like the development going in, well, it's Pinnacle Road, that big section of property that's divided up between 5 and
Right,
6.
Right.
Yeah.
They had concerns, I mean, nothing going in, but they had concerns. They look at it like, is development going in there? Is it gonna be, how easy is it for us to get a fire truck down there?
Right.
If there's a
Right.
house.
I know they write a letter,
Yeah.
but
But they look
typically
at
it's
over all
always,
the
everything's
plans
fine.
Yeah.
with
Something
an
like
eye
this.
on safety, fire safety.
Good.
And the engineer, I mean, that's the Madeline's Way additional house up there. The fire department said they needed
Well,
to
they
have.
respond to ZBA and
Yeah.
planning board,
Yeah.
but for something like this, this is
This
big.
is
This
something
isn't just,
different.
this isn't just responding and having a road. This is large potential
Fuel tanks.
buildings.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, that's, that happens at the planning, at the
But,
development stage,
Well, anyway,
That's a great-
that's,
It can also happen at the seeker stage too.
to make sure.
Yeah, so
Okay.
for example, community character,
Safety.
EMT, fire, police, all of those things can be reviewed. You know, does the town have the does the town have the infrastructure to be able to handle that sort of thing? Is that an environmental impact or not?
Right. As we did with
Yeah.
large scale solar
Right,
and
yeah,
things like
Similar
that.
to that as well.
Yeah.
then we will put this on the agenda for the next meeting.
Mhm.
And the information that we don't have tonight should be available. I mean, the information we haven't had a chance to look at
Right.
should be talked about at the next meeting. All right,
Is it possible to ask a question?
not at this point.
Okay.
In just a couple of minutes, Tony. Can we have a follow-up discussion to the electricity, community choice aggregation, and clean energy communities program discussion that we have had?
The legislation to move forward, is that
believe, so with respect to the CCA, that draft legislation was provided to the town board, so it is up to the town board to decide whether or not to move that forward in the process. If you do have any feedback or anything on that regard, then it may not be ready for introduction. It's, as I explained in my email, not a one size fits all necessarily. There are some parts of those things that may be tailored. And so if you think if you want to introduce it into the public forum and be able to debate it publicly, then we can do that. And it can certainly go through various iterations of drafts before it's subjected to a public hearing, or you can schedule the public hearing, get feedback, you may have to redo it, but it is ready for town board consumption.
And Supervisor, when I was the acting deputy supervisor in September 8th, I gave the board homework to look at that. And we have not done our homework yet, so we do have it, and we need to work on that.
Can we make a commitment to have that
Well, should we,
completed by the next meeting?
should we schedule a public hearing? Because it's gonna take us at least 2 meetings to get the public hearing, right? It won't be at the next one, it'll be at
30
the
days
following
from now,
one.
Do we
So-
need a public hearing for that, Jen?
Thanksgiving, yes, that's
Yes.
a local law, so that would
It's
be
a local law.
hearing.
All right,
One
so
day
And,
we-
before
and we
Thanksgiving.
have the documentation
Right,
Correct.
to schedule the public hearing.
right. So that way we can do our homework between
Mhm.
now and the next meeting, talk about
Then
anything, and then have the
First
public
meeting in
meeting.
November.
Yeah, when's that?
Second.
All right.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yes, you're right.
It will be on the next agenda.
Uh,
I think we're thinking Supervisor to schedule a public hearing on it,
On
Is that what I'm hearing?
November, it would be November.
unless you're not in
10th.
favor of
Well,
that.
we need to have the discussion that we intend to have. We could have the public hearing scheduled the same night
No, or afterwards.
or afterward.
I think that's, and that way we don't keep kicking it down the road.
So, okay, I'm gonna see if I clarify this. We're gonna discuss it at the next board meeting, which would be the October 20 something meeting.
Yes,
And then the public hearing will hold on November the 10th.
we can do that. We can schedule that to happen.
The second, probably be the Wednesday before
Tuesday.
Thanksgiving meeting or Tuesday before,
You think so?
based on publication. Now, we've changed papers though, is how is the cycle
Well,
working
this-
now?
No, I think
Because that's,
it's doable, but we have a few different public hearings that are gonna be coming.
possible.
The budget.
Possible.
Yeah, I probably,
So do you
I'm
want to do
okay
it
with the second one in
The one in
November.
November?
Second one in
All
November.
right, so that would be the 23rd, because we're moving the meeting to
Tuesday.
Tuesday instead of Wednesday. All right, so let's change that. Town board. Tuesday instead of.
Everybody's in agreement?
So you
Yep.
need a resolution.
All right.
I would,
We need a
Attorney
resolution.
Mancuso, you're always good at those resolutions and
Do you want to
always,
schedule that now for the November 23rd, or do you want to wait till the next meeting to?
Oh,
schedule
that's
it? 'Cause it
true.
does- It's not.
yeah,
gonna matter.
let's do that. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Well,
We'll wait till the
What-
next meeting to
but-
schedule.
what if we forget? I mean, why can't we just do it now, get it off the books, and that way Pam has the information, she can.
Totally understand.
Yeah,
Okay,
Motion to schedule a public hearing for proposed local law number,
Just local
Oh,
law,
shoot.
right?
local
Not
law
sure.
regarding the community choice aggregation program for November 23rd at the town hall at 7:15
Yep.
PM.
as well as the clean. The
Nope,
seat.
separate.
oh,
thing.
separate.
Oh, separate, okay.
That's
separate.
thing.
I'll second that motion.
Who was it? Councilman
Who-
Corbin, were you the one?
Yes.
So moved. So moved.
You said it. I
Good
heard
Okay,
you.
so moved. Yes, you heard me.
Good.
Good.
Councilman Walner.
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Wickerham.
Aye.
Supervisor Houston.
Aye.
So on the other half of that, I will be writing up a report back to Councilwoman Corbin on the other documents per my discussion and meeting with the town building inspector.
Will do.
Thank you. Can we have an update on the EV charging station situation?
Yes, very briefly, we missed the boat board, in our due diligence to get additional quotes. Albany has run out of money on the NYSERDA. They had like 22 million and that has all been
Eaten right up.
eaten up. But there is an additional one that now they are substituting through the DEC. This is just for equipment. But here's the difference. NYSERDA, 100%. We wouldn't pay a penny. DEC, based on your medium income, and we know annual income, and we
Ours
know
is
the
high.
town of Rush is close to, I think, I heard
88, I think.
88, 90,000.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm waiting for a second vendor I met with to give me that new paperwork. And I will keep you updated. That's all I have.
And that's a disappointing example of
Why
what
am I not
happens if
surprised?
you wait too long.
Oh.
Because we had an
Unemployment
earlier
money ran out.
presentation that made us feel good. And now
We got to go through the
right.
procurement.
we can't feel so good.
Did we skip the clean energy community?
That is what Attorney Mancuso is going to talk with myself and the building inspector, because there was a couple of things in there, and we'll get that to
Okay.
you well
Okay.
before the next board
Okay.
meeting.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. Who wants to do the comprehensive plan presentation?
Well, I think that Councilman Lang is the one that is chairing it, so we don't have one tonight.
Well, I just want to go on record as saying that I checked with some other towns when I got the letter requesting $65,000 to $80,000 to fund this. And I was informed by other towns that if you're having a existing plan upgraded, think about $15,000 to $25,000. If you're starting from scratch, think about $20,000 to $40,000. And when I told the people, the supervisors that I spoke with, what was on the letter I was reading, they said, you gotta be kidding. That's all I want to say, because
Interested to know who you talked to.
I haven't participated in any of that, so I did ask the people on the planning board who did it back in '93. They had a small amount, but there's been a lot of time that has gone by since then, and inflation and all that stuff.
I think
So-
the one that was done in 2010 was around 30 to 40,000 at that point.
That I don't know.
Well, Supervisor, I requested again when I was acting in your role on September 8th for the comprehensive plan co-chairs to do a presentation to us so we can see where they are and why they came up with that amount. I think it would be great for the residents who have not been a part of it.
Agreed.
To do a workshop.
To do, like, you're like at the 6 o'clock
Yeah,
to
workshop.
6:45. And
And-
workshop where they present it to us, obviously the residents are welcome to
Right.
watch, they just would be
The,
observers, but I think that needs to get planned.
We will ask
sooner.
that to happen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can we pick a date that we'd like that to happen so that they have an idea?
I think there's too many people involved, potentially. You
Well,
know,
it-
we can schedule it for our town board date,
Right.
but what if one or two of them can't?
Well, we're gonna have to do it on a town board day.
Well, I don't deny that.
So if we give them a date, they can prepare for that date. And they do have two co-chairs and other representatives that I'm sure would be knowledgeable and be able to
So
present.
the next
Yeah, so we
town board
can,
meeting. at 6
either the
o'clock.
next one or the one on the 10th of November.
Oh,
I mean, that's.
Take
we
your
have-
pick.
Yeah,
well, I think they've been in operation for quite
Well,
a
they
few months
have-
now.
let's see, the next one would be the 27th.
Let's do it
There-
at 6 o'clock then.
They just had, did they just have one?
Yes, they
on
just
the
had one on
11th?
the 11th.
Okay,
on
so
Indigenous
yeah,
people.
do you want to do it on the 27th?
Mhm.
Well,
Okay.
pardon? We can let,
But you have to notice that, didn't we get the
Oh.
information that was submitted today, and I think Catherine was gonna put categories on the town website.
But before anything goes on the town website, we as the overseeing board, I would
Need a
like to see,
workshop.
I'd like the workshop so
Yeah.
we can digest it and
So
see
they
if we
stop
agree.
Stop from doing that then.
Okay,
so do we still have to know, I mean, we have to notice the meeting, we're having a meeting, it's just gonna start an hour earlier with a workshop. So
Right.
does that have to be noticed?
Yes.
So then, how about the 10th then? Because that, you have time to do it for the 10th.
Well, she hasn't noticed for the 27th yet.
Well, public hearings are different than.
This isn't a
Workshop.
public hearing.
I
yet.
know,
Okay,
but that's why we had to schedule that one.
Yeah.
You're
farther out.
public hearing farther out.
Right.
This is just the workshop from 6 to 6:45.
So can
And
we
the-
do it on the 27th? Do you have enough time?
I thought you wanted to do another.
What?
I'm confused.
October 22nd or 27th. I would like it sooner than later so we
Yeah.
can start making decisions of what we have to
Agreed.
do.
October 27th is when you want it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
27th.
Starting at 6 o'clock. Do you have enough time to notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's
Okay.
not a public hearing.
Okay, all right, okay.
All
And
done?
we need to
So
let
schedule
Councilman Lang know to
Yep.
let them know.
Yep.
Any other comments?
No, I'll be quiet.
Then let's follow up discussion on the options to ensure electronic copies of subboard documents, or did we kind of agreed to that before?
We just need a resolution is scheduled. It's a special workshop that's starting before the regular meeting.
We need a
Just a
resolution.
resolution is scheduled out for that day.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay, well, I so move that we schedule a workshop for Wednesday, October 27th, from 6 PM to 6:45 PM, to have a presentation on the progress of from the plan committee.
I'll second that.
All right, and I will let Councilman Lang know.
Thank you.
Councilman Wilbur,
Aye.
Councilman Corbett,
Aye.
Councilman Wickerham,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusie.
Aye. All right. The follow-up discussion on the options to ensure electronic copies for subboards.
The Conservation Board,
Would like to receive
electronic copy.
electric copies of all the plans that they have to review. I don't know what's involved in doing that.
We talked about putting a Dropbox so all boards could access, the town board, all that thing, but. Counselor?
Well, I do know that it has taken a long time to download some things and send them to different boards. You have to split things. Some people at home can't take that information. Also, information should have been and has to be redacted from every single application because there's public information or personal information on there. So it's gonna be a very time consuming thing. I have talked to Attorney Mancuso about developing and dropping it into some type of thing like that. I just recently talked to him about that, so I haven't researched it enough to implement that, but I want you to know that they all do get hard copies. Sometimes the hard copies that we do get, they're in their box. Every board now is meeting in person, and it's very difficult when you see a plan on your screen here, which is so small, versus having it to review in front of you. So I think because it is so time consuming and more time extracting that information that isn't shared and shouldn't be freedom to everyone. Until there's something like that that can be handled by more staff members, or that, you know, we can find a better solution. I think right now, giving a hard copy to board members so that they can meet and discuss that. They do have timeframes in between answering and sending information to other boards.
Would you like time to research it further?
Not at the moment, I don't know.
When have they got, I was the liaison for them all last year and only the chair gets a hard copy. And when I've sat in this year,
Yeah,
only,
there's one
they
copy.
do not get hard copies.
Well, last year was a little bit different.
No, but this year,
It's always been, they get one copy.
right,
Yeah, you get one copy.
the individual members do not. So
So
how,
if you're at a meeting to share that
no,
copy.
no, if I want to do my homework, like the planning board, we as a town board,
different members of the conservation board would like to look at the plans before the meeting.
Uh-huh.
And the copy is here. And some of them are a little bit, with COVID and everything, they don't want to gather around the table and look at the plans all at the same time. They like to have a copy beforehand so they can look it over and discuss it from afar with prior knowledge to what's actually on the plan.
I think that's a reasonable,
That's what they've asked me to ask for. I don't know if I could get the hard copy and
But-
start it and pass it around to the conservation board, so they could pass it between members
But
before the meeting.
that's not efficient.
I-
The planning board all gets a copy individually, the zoning board, the conservation board never did,
sure,
understood.
they should.
But we are a year into,
As long as
A
we're not gonna
COVID
have some
and-
type of check and balance on how quickly I get that information to
But-
everybody immediately.
the applicants are required for planning and zoning to submit everything electronically as
Yeah.
well as hard copies. So we're not asking the applicant now to make 5 more copies, hard copy, which increases their cost. It's all electronic. And if we can come up with this Dropbox, because I know myself personally as a town board member, I have people call me asking me about something on zoning or planning, and I don't have access to it. I've had to actually foil to get information from the town clerk's office. And I think we can all work together and come up with a Dropbox. We had a resident offer to help train us on how to do that, if we are willing to use Dropbox. I'm not an expert at it, so I can do Zoom and all that, but not Dropbox.
They'd be more than happy to look at it, an electric copy.
They don't need a hard copy. So how do we move that forward?
That's why I asked, do you need time to look into this
Well,
more?
Yeah, I do, because that conversation Shelley and I had with you, you said, no, we should just get hard copies.
It won't hurt us to wait for Pam to research it.
They're struggling along.
I understand, but they have been, and we see light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
But
If I give them hope, they're good with that.
Good move. All right. You in agreement, Pam?
Yes.
Can we move on to a resolution to schedule a public hearing for the 2022 town budget?
Are we gonna have a discussion about it? So
Well,
we can,
I want to make sure that everybody understands the preliminary budget is out there. Everybody has their budget, but unlike previous years where the finance director did practically everybody's budget, this year I had everyone do their own budgets. And that was aided by Mrs. Hankins and Christine Pereira, our finance director, to try to simplify the process. And I think, based on what I heard, it went pretty good. Now, the budget that we have is what was submitted with a couple of minor alterations. And Councilperson Wickerham is saying, now, can we have a group discussion on the budget? Yes, we can.
okay.
When would you like to do that?
Well, I thought we were gonna do it tonight because we need to schedule a public hearing and I mean, if you look at mine, I have all kinds of highlights and scribbles and questions and so,
I see that.
yeah, I mean, that's what I thought we were supposed to do is look through it and then.
Well, we
come back
can
to
do
the
it if you
table
want to
and-
be here till 1.
Well, I mean, all right, when do you suggest that we have that conversation then? If you would, we can't do it tonight.
I suggest we have it when it's convenient for the other board members. I'm available anytime.
We have to do it in public,
Yes, that's true.
so. I mean, we can do it now if you want, I mean, or we can,
I suspect that we don't want to
I mean,
crucify us.
I did ask in an email a couple of weeks ago, but have not had a response about when this would happen, but. So what do you want, I have a lot of questions and a lot of, things that I need clarification on. So,
Okay, then the question is, we're not gonna do it tonight because of the
Okay.
time.
okay,
And our next meetings are filled and we can't wait till then.
right,
So we've got to have a special meeting to talk about the budget.
okay,
I agree.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
So tonight's the 13th. We're all booked up tomorrow, or at least some of us are.
Well, that couldn't get publicized in time.
Right. Well, the
Do you
special
know
meeting
when,
only
do you know
has
when
3.
Councilman Lane? Might,
He'll be back he's gone for a week
A
and they
week,
left
okay.
today. So he'll be back on whatever date that is, 20.
the 20th?
Yeah.
Pam, you know the due dates. Do you have a suggestion for when we could have that or should have it?
You only need 72 hours notice.
For a special
Okay.
meeting.
For a special meeting, so you could discuss that at any time.
yeah.
Hopefully with all 5 members.
I mean, Ryan's not getting
So
back
that when
until
you
the
do
20th.
public Hearing that I'll have had a.
21st, 25th.
21st?
What about the 20th, next
You
Wednesday?
said that's when he gets. back,
Oh,
though.
yeah, sorry.
The
Sorry.
21st looks okay to me. It's a
You,
Thursday.
well, you and I
Wait,
are doing the
Thursday.
audit.
Oh, we'll just stay here all day.
I'm supposed to go to work on Thursdays. So
We're
yeah.
auditing the town clerk. on the
Okay,
20th.
so, I've got a Lions Club meeting, but I can bow out of that one.
And there's the senior social hour in the library, 10 a.m.
I know, I have that one there too.
I'm still good.
Have you
on
been
the
to
21st?
the social hour? I have not had a chance because it's always on Thursday when I'm out of town.
I'm fine on the 21st, but
21st is fine.
Okay,
21st is fine.
21st.
I'm good for 6,
Six-
although you work.
How about 6:30?
6:30?
Yeah, that way I can at least have something to eat before we come. Okay,
All right.
and I'll,
Your audit short then.
yeah, we'll cut the audit short. Hey, no, 2:30? You think we're gonna be there longer than,
Councilwoman Wickerham, I'm gonna be there. What do you think?
okay,
Do we need to vote for the record?
Yes.
All right.
I so moved to schedule, is that what we're doing?
yeah,
Yes.
A
Okay.
special town board meeting to discuss the tentative budget on Thursday, October 21st, 2021 at 6:30 PM
Mhm.
at the Rush Town Hall, which I never remember the address.
hang on, I'll tell you.
5977 Rush Street, East
There-
Henrietta Road.
East
Rush, New
Henrietta
York,
Road,
Rush, New York.
yeah.
And also by Zoom.
Second to
I'll second it.
Councilman Wilbur,
Aye.
Councilman
He's
Corbin,
gonna hate me.
Aye.
Councilwoman Wickerham.
Aye.
Supervisor Tusey.
Aye. Moving on to schedule a public hearing for the tree ordinance on Tree City status. That should be pretty simple. Do you have a resolution, Deputy Supervisor, for that?
Actually, the town clerk drafted one for us, if we are in agreement with it.
Thank
Has
God for
everyone
the
had a
town
chance
clerk.
to look at it?
Mhm.
Next meeting.
Is it able to do it at the 27th or no?
Nope.
No, so we're looking at November.
So we want to do it the same, can we have 2 public hearings on the same night?
Yes, you just stagger them, which is the one on the first.
Where's the
First
10th?
one's the one for CC.
Did we
That
say?
one- that one we
No,
did.
that,
one's
yeah,
the
that
second-
was the one,
second.
that's the second one in November, so we don't have
Oh,
one.
that's right, 23rd, that's right.
So that should be 7:15 on the first.
7:15.
the
all right.
first, Wednesday.
All right,
So I so moved to schedule a public hearing on the I've never seen it worded this way. On the support and opposition of the tree ordinance for Tree City on November 10th at 7:15 PM at 5977 East Henrietta Road, Rush, New York.
okay.
I'll second that.
No, good.
Councilwoman Wickerham,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Tusey,
Aye.
Councilman Wilbur.
All right.
All right. The last item of new business is the assessor's clerk recruitment update. And I was asked by the town clerk if we could have the new assessor's clerk start tomorrow, and I said no. I would prefer it's Monday because I did not know what the sentiment of the rest of the board members is regarding that process that was used to obtain that candidate.
I am perfectly fine with it. She's already trained, she's already worked with him.
And I know nothing about it. So nothing has been shared with me as a town board member about this
Is that
at all.
Augie's clerk from?
From Gates.
Yeah.
And were there other applicants?
We posted it.
Yes, Jerry
I know, I
said
saw
that
it,
there
I
were
saw
other
it,
yeah.
applicants, And Augie has made the decision based on those 3 applicants that he would like to have that one that is on the resolution proposed starting on Monday.
And did he interview because were any Rush residents?
There was a Rush resident that did supply a resume, and he told me that she did not have any, that person did not have any of the qualifications necessary for the position. The second person had some qualifications, but he was not interested in that person. The third one was the one that he selected because she is fully trained in the assessor office in Gates.
And this is the person he had wanted all along. I wish he were here to give that report, because I think we as a board sitting here, it would have been nice to hear from him.
I
on
thought
that.
he was going to be here tonight, but
I guess I would, in the future, I would, when we get back to our process and procedure of the town board, I would like to definitely make that part of that. I think it's important that the person who is hiring explain it to us. I appreciate what you shared with us.
I'll piggyback on that comment, because when I appointed the supervisor secretary, everybody got a chance to talk with that person. When I appointed the finance
No,
director,
we didn't. Not the secretary, the finance person we did. Yeah,
you had an opportunity.
no, we didn't.
I can remember someone saying, well, why should we talk to her? Because it's like you've already made the appointment. Well, because you know what? If I had 4 board members who said, don't do that, I probably wouldn't.
Well, it wasn't. All right, here's my question. It is this assessor's choice, correct?
Well, the assessor reports to the supervisor, and I would think that the assessor's choice for a clerk would have to be approved by the supervisor and the board. Maybe not the board officially, but the board at least can consider.
in the past, no resumes have been shared with anybody else but the department head that is going to be authorizing that.
I know, but I think you can see that we are not an old, the way
No,
the
I
old way used to
understand,
be.
but I-
So we want to create our own process and procedure, and for the public to hear us, that we are doing our job.
I'm just saying that my office has been covering for the assessor's office. The
Mhm.
assessor's clerk left with no notice.
Right.
This one is a
We,
trained.
let's not get into
This-
employee matters,
No,
because
but
we
this
know
one
that.
is a trained person.
Mhm.
So we've been covering a lot, and it would be really great to have someone that is already trained, especially with the upcoming exemption time, to get this person
There's
in the office
there's
as
no
soon as
doubt about it,
possible.
but how this person came to be, again, the board needs to
I did
just have
do
a
the
process and procedure.
advertising
Yeah.
appropriately.
No, it's not, it was before the advertisement went out.
And one thing still
just leave it at that.
considers to bother me, and that is I did a lengthy exit interview with the prior person in that position who said, you don't need anyone there. There's no work. That's why I left.
Well, I don't think we should discuss that, as Councilwoman Corbin stated.
I'm not
And-
talking about the person. I'm talking about the job. I
Well,
think we can discuss the job in front of the people.
there's been other clerks that have been very busy in that office.
And like you
It
said, maybe
fluctu-
you
it
could talk to the
fluctuates.
assessor to see what
I
he
was
feels.
the assessor a long time ago. It
Yeah.
fluctuates.
But yeah, the work, I mean, I think it's the assessor, if he believes that there is work for a clerk to do, and he has one, he is very confident will be able to assist him for the 20 hours that we are requiring. We're gonna approve this. I mean, I would like to make a motion to authorize Assessor Minio to appoint Cheryl Davis Sriracha as a part-time assessor clerk at the rate of $17.12 per hour for a 20-hour work week beginning on Monday, the 18th.
And the one fur under my saddle blanket is the exit interview I conducted. So.
Do I have a second?
if-
Councilman Holder,
All right,
Councilwoman Corbett,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wickerham,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusie.
aye. You want to call or count Supervisor Wickerham, you can, it won't offend me.
I apologize, I didn't mean to do that. Supervisor Cusie.
Well, it's fine.
It is an error on my part, I'm sorry that I did that.
I will now open up the public comment period for people in the audience or people on Zoom. If you'd like to speak, please approach the podium, state your name and address, and this is the opportunity for you to have two-way conversation. You can ask a question, hopefully get an answer, make a comment, get a response, whatever you desire.
Jim Wilkins, 5891 East Center Road, Rush. Mary Ann and I are on the comprehensive board, and our next meeting, I think, is the first Monday in November, is that correct?
Yep.
And to have a report from the committee chairs before that meeting, because this is going to be an important meeting, because they're just now deciphering all the stuff that they took in at the out the building back. I don't know how much of a report, because we're only meeting once a month, and it's not going very fast, to be honest with you. I mean, there's so much to talk about, so many discussions. So I just want you to be aware. I don't know how much of a report that you'll be able to get. The other thing I want to talk about is, Jerry, I commend you for having that water meeting. I went to it for a couple of reasons. First of all, the only surprise I had was the medium income in Rush was $88,000. That blew me away.
And Jim, I think that was like 2019.
I had no
It's
idea.
90,000.
I had no idea it was that high. I'm gonna give myself a raise. But anyway, the thing I wasn't surprised at was the prices they quoted, up to 2,500 a year plus installation. I used to own property in houses in Henrietta and I had a well. And let me tell you, if you have a well, if you want good water, it costs you money. I spent, and this is years back, $7,000 in equipment to put in what I would call, was supposed to give me city water drinking quality. I also had it tested once a year for 2 houses, and I also had a company come and service it once a year. And that's the only way. I mean, when you start talking about 2,500 a year, I mean, my goodness, a lot of these people, if they don't meet the threshold of the 88,000, they get some help, but still, if they're paying they're going to have to pay quite a bit of money. I don't know how much money they'll get, but anyway, there is a way to do it. It's expensive, but these folks that are getting bad water and can't drink it, they should investigate that. I'm not a salesman for any company or not, but I wouldn't recommend one company in Henrietta because I don't think they do a good job. It starts with an A, but there's many companies. There is companies out there, and if you do your homework, you can find out who does a good job. But that's one solution. But water is important, and my heart goes out to people that don't have it. I was 600 foot from Lehigh Station Road with my property, and I was the first house there, and I owned the lot before it. They quoted me $70,000 to bring the water to my house. I had to set up a district once I set up the district, anybody past me could hook up to that and go on their merry way, and they didn't have to reimburse me anything. I had to turn it over to the water authority. So after I told the guy it was nuts, you can understand. Yes.
I have had numerous people down on the south side of town tell me that they've invested $20,000 to $25,000 plus a huge salt, I think it is, they put in it.
Yeah.
A huge salt bill every month,
Well,
and
I
they
use
still
salt.
can't use the water.
Well, there's gotta be something wrong because
They
I
had,
had very
I
bad
said-
water and
I
I had
said,
to use salt.
who
Matter
would
of
you,
fact, I was
who did you
running
buy
salt.
the system from? They said, oh, the A company in Henrietta that Jim Wilkins doesn't want to mention. And the other one, what's Culligan Boys? And there's a third one. Everybody says it doesn't work.
Well, I use Northeastern. They're in outside of Brockport.
I didn't hear that one.
And,
They're used to
you know, they serviced the thing, they came. I mean, you know, if I had a problem, they were there that day. I mean, they were very good, and they weren't cheap, but I mean, you know, they put in, you know, I had 5 tanks. Plus I had a holding tank in the basement that supplied 2 houses. I had a holding tank, 300-gallon holding tank that I put down there that was treated, but also to relieve the stress on the well. There was always, they would pump out of that first.
That was another thing. People told me they burned well motors out because the thing goes to pump in the middle of the night and there's no water and it burns it out.
That's why you put a holding tank in the cellar, in the basement. The holding tank, I had a 300-gallon holding tank, and you know, we never ran out of water. We went through some real drought times. Of course, I had restrictions. You couldn't wash your car, you couldn't water your garden. You know, I tried to make restrictions, but you know, my well was 85 foot deep. And I owned the property for 32 years. And you know, when I first bought it, you know, I had a guy tell me his hair turned yellow when he washed his head.
Yeah.
And, you know, and so I started investigating, I made improvements. And I got to a point where, you know, that my water was great, my water was good. But it takes time, but some companies, if it's not working, they're doing something wrong, believe me when I tell you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room want to speak? Please state your name, address. Take your mask off so we can hear.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Cole, and I live at 1254 Rush Scottsville Road. I would just like to add to the water issue. We have a wedding barn in Scottsville that had a situation with the well. There's no fresh water out there, and we had to meet the Monroe County standards. They come every month and check our water. And like you said, Northeast helped us set up a system. We actually hold 2,000 gallons in the cobblestone at one time. And there was no issues whatsoever. It takes a little work to get it up, and it takes due diligence to keep the system running correctly. But it is possible, even for a massive amount of water that we need to run our facility. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Good night, Jim. Thanks.
Oh, and if anyone ever would like to come and see it, please give me a call. Thanks.
Thank you.
Audrey Siebert, if you are still with us, you said you wanted to speak at the second public comment period.
Yes, can you,
Can hear you, Audrey.
can you see and hear me?
Not yet.
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can see her.
Okay. I have 2 things. There's the Hanson aggregate on number 585 Honeyway Falls, 5 Points Road. Does Hanson aggregate on number 6 road have anything to do with the poor water quality and the dry wells?
Good question.
That
Investigated.
situation supposedly was litigated probably 15 to 20 years ago, maybe even more. And the courts, I believe it went to the courts, who decided that they were not responsible for that. And I think that's been the end of that. But it's been strange to me that over the 20 years that I've been involved in these matters, I've heard more complaints as time goes on than less. So who knows?
And then part two was during that water meeting, it was something about how to, that in order to be considered for water, you had to file a petition for public water, but I don't know how to do that. Can you run through that process?
Yes, what's going to happen, Audrey, is we are going to send questionnaires out to the people who initially got the invitation. And the questionnaire is going to ask, okay, now that you know what is involved, do you want to have us proceed? And that's why I say if enough people say no, then that's where it ends. But if enough people say yes, then we've got to get the board involved, then we've got to get engineers involved, and we've got to proceed with grant writers and all that stuff. I'm told that a lot of money is going to be available the end of this year and next year. That's why I want to move this thing ahead. But if the people don't want to move it ahead, then I guess we can't do it without the support of the people. And to answer your question about the petition, if enough people respond with a positive, yes, we want to proceed and do it, then we will have an organized petition effort so that we get signatures of all interested parties on a properly designated petition.
Okay, thank you for that.
The individuals we'll put together the petition, and we will have people who will take it around their neighborhoods to get it signed.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Joanne Scanlon would like to speak on chat. Joanne, please unmute yourself, turn your video on, and give us your name and address.
Joanne Scanlon, 1633 Rush Henrietta Town Line Road. Just ignore my dogs playing in the background and making all that fuss. So I just had a couple of things. As far as the water district, I did not hear about the meeting until after it occurred. For some reason, I didn't get the email from the town until yesterday. So I'm really not sure about, some of the specifics that I think you probably talked about, but I'm not sure how many homes we're talking about, and the estimate, the total cost involved to bring water to all these homes, and how much of that are we going to expect from grant funding and such. Do you have any idea on that at this point?
We are way too early in the process, Joanne, to give you distinct answers to those questions. Those are good questions and fair questions, but that would come from the second phase, which would be, are we going to go forth or aren't we going to go forth? Because all of this stuff costs money. And if we're going to go forth with that, it's going to be because the people want it to happen.
Okay. All right, great. I just wasn't sure if that was discussed at the meeting or not.
And I'm going to guess the reason you didn't get a notice of that meeting, Joanne, was because you have water where you live.
Yes, I do. But I had to upgrade mine too, because my water pressure was so bad that if I had my dishwasher running, I couldn't run water or flush a toilet without it, turning off.
I haven't heard that one, so.
Yeah, I had to spend $6,000 to install a pump because our water pressure was so low. So, I can do it now.
Yeah, it's a reservoir in the backyard. Go figure.
I know, right? I'm too close to the source, I guess.
Joanne, this is Amber, just so you know, we did on Zoom record the meeting, and I've downloaded it and shared it with the supervisor secretary to put it up on the town website. So you should, what's that? So I said the supervisor secretary to put it on the website. So she hopefully will do that shortly.
Okay, great. Thank you. The other question I had was about the 1911 house. I know that the board had approved for the roof to go on, and hopefully that'll happen sometime before the snow flies. But I wasn't aware that the board had made a decision what was going to happen with the house after the roof went on. I thought that there was still a discussion about whether it was actually going to be used for the historical society and some meeting rooms, or whether you were not going to keep the building. But I'm just curious whether I missed something, because when I read Supervisor Cusey's newsletter article, it seemed like it was already a done deal. So
I think I will ask Councilperson Woolliver to report on that, because there is an answer to that.
The Historical Society wants to use it, but I've also heard that other people wanted to use meeting rooms there. Aside from the Historical Society, we'll get a roof on it and then move forward.
And Joanne, as far as a decision by the board, we have not made a decision on how that building is going to be used, if that is the question that you're asking.
okay, yeah. Because I guess because I just thought I missed something, because I thought we were still talking about how it was going to be used, and if what was what what would make the most sense with that.
That's correct.
We've just approved the roof.
Yet to be determined, we approved the roof, Joanne, so we would prevent any future deterioration from water damage.
Right. And I knew that you had approved that, but I just didn't know if you had gone further than that. So perfect. Well, thank you so very much. Maybe I'll go run my dishwasher and take a bath.
Thank you.
Supervisor Catherine Hankins is on Zoom and would like to speak. Catherine, unmute yourself, turn your video on, and give us your name and address.
Okay, so I'm sorry I had to leave earlier, but and perhaps while I was gone traveling, you made a decision. But I am concerned. It's happened again earlier in this year that bills were not paid when the vouchers were pulled. So I hope there's a meeting that was scheduled quite shortly, 72 hours, whatever, to pay those bills and let the finance director explain the nature of escrow accounts. We also have the American Recovery Act fund, but these are funds that are restricted monies. We certainly have far money to pay our bills in a timely fashion. And it's so important for a town to have that reputation amongst its vendors. But CHA is our engineer. We need to make sure that we are paying our bills timely. So I hope that before the meeting is over, that there is a resolution to schedule a meeting and that we can all learn the definition of an escrow account. Many times, I don't know what Dan Klimick's approach was, but one of the things I do know in accounting is that if you're going to change course, change it at the beginning of the year so that the books are kept in the same way. Because having done a lot of books in my business life, the auditors come in and they want to know that you have done it in a format, a standard approach. And as Supervisor Cusey said, all he knows is that we've been doing it this way, and let's learn a new way. Let's open that door to other opportunities or whatever. But an escrow account is an asset. And so we may have the obligation, by the way it was set up, to have to report out to the company how, what we pulled from that asset. Maybe there's a back and forth before it's finalized. I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but I do know that those bills are legitimate bills. They're our own engineers' bills, and we should be paying them. So if we need 72 hours to find out from Dan Klimick or find out from the New York State Comptroller, let's get those bills paid, because we did it for, I think, an attorney for another, the intervener funds. These are funds that are restricted monies. The board has a fiduciary responsibility to pay the town bills in a timely fashion and not sort of just pull them out of the abstract. So I would expect that to happen. And I think it should happen this evening. It's almost, as a citizen, it's quite shocking to me, but I think it's also just an embarrassment not for us to have pay our bills in a timely fashion. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Anyone on a phone on Zoom? You want to speak? You can.
Marianne would
Oh,
like
I
to speak.
apologize.
No, that's okay.
No, your one is unmuting themselves.
And excuse me, this is the time for a back and forth, so I would like some feedback, and I'd like to know whether the board is going to make a resolution to schedule a meeting and, within the time frame to pay those two bills.
I don't know if you were present when I made the statement, Mrs. Hankins, that this is nothing out of the ordinary. This is the way this process has always worked.
Yep.
That was part of many of the changes that I wanted to make, but one that I haven't gotten to yet.
Yep, that I did hear that, Supervisor Kusi, but I also watched, I was there at the time and watched the town board pull them out and pass a resolution to pay not all of the bills. And I saw that happen in the past, only once. And again, it was this year. But I've been a faithful participant in town board meetings for a decade. I had been following the budget of this town for more than a decade. And I have been very, very careful in my efforts to research items, but that it is not appropriate. And I'm hoping that the resolution would be that you have a schedule a board meeting to give the time to review it and pass those bills. It's very much like what's going on in Washington. These bills have to be paid. So, we have the monies and there's no excuse. So I'm not asking for an answer from you, Supervisor Kusi, but Councilperson Wickerham and Councilperson Corbin agreed to pull 2 invoices, and those invoices should be paid. How long do you need to learn what you need to do? We can pull them from the ARA funds. We could pull them from the escrow accounts if that's appropriate based on the controller's advice. I know both of those funds are being managed. The ARA funds are being managed by the county. I've read about it, and I read it in the newspaper, and I've read about it in the county website. So there's ways that we could pay those bills. The funds are there, and I would just like to make sure our town is in good standing and does not have that reputation amongst our vendors in this community or elsewhere in this county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Hankins, I'll respond to you in that the transfer we received just shortly before we walked in. And when we as a board looked at it together and saw it was coming out of a contingency fund when it seemed as though it should be coming out of the escrow fund and the engineering fund, if there's not enough money in those funds to pay for it, but there might be, those are the questions we have to make sure that it's being pulled out of the right fund, because I did not hear, maybe I didn't hear correctly, that we couldn't put it back into the contingency. I could be wrong, but that's what I thought I heard.
I heard too.
Councilperson Corbin, I'm just saying that will be resolved. Maybe it'll be resolved at 9 o'clock tomorrow. When will the board meet? Because waiting another 2 weeks is not good for our town. So maybe there just has to be another meeting where you can pass come in together and pass the resolution to pay those bills. That's all I'm saying.
We did schedule a workshop, so I'm going to have to ask Mr. Attorney Mancuso, who's chatting over there. Mr. Mancuso, come on.
Clerk was asking me a question.
We've got a special meeting on the
21st, but we wrote it as a workshop.
No, it's a special budget discussion meeting.
Okay, can we include this with the agenda?
And any other business.
And any other business
So on the
subject to
21st.
change.
Yeah.
So Mrs. Hankins, on October 21st at 6:30, we will be meeting to discuss the budget, and we will I am certain 100% have those questions answered and we will be able to get those bills paid.
Thank you.
Mrs.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Wickerham, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
you.
that's all right.
How about Ms. Russo?
Rizzo.
Rizzo.
Hi, Marianne Rizzo, 25 Stowe Road. I also felt very uncomfortable about that voucher not getting paid, and I know you have reasons, but just the voucher, approximately.
I think
I just feel very uncomfortable for myself, you know, the way I conduct my own life, to have an unpaid bill.
One of them is $1,600 and one is $2,700. And to be fiduciarily responsible, I think that that's what we're doing, is making sure that we're doing it the right way. We're protecting town tax dollars. So pulling those and making sure that money is coming from where it should come from, I think is being responsible.
I just wondered, I mean, I know you already made your decision and you had a reason, but I just wondered if you could have paid the bill and then said that, you know, you'd figure out the logistics, because it's gonna get paid. I don't know when the due date, if the due date is now, or if it's no due date, okay, but I just feel comfortable with the town, you know, getting an A+ on their, you know, in terms of their credit rating and at all times, and I hope that we're not gonna be able to do on that.
Yeah, that is.
Understand.
Yeah, so I did feel uncomfortable about it. I also felt uncomfortable with something that Jerry said about the assessor's clerk position. And I know y'all voted yes to approve the position, but as a taxpayer, Jerry mentioned something that I thought was worth looking into more before saying yes, and maybe just evaluating the whole position. And he said that the former assessor's clerk thought there wasn't enough work to do in that position. And I felt that that's something that's important, because that's $17 something per hour, 20 hours a week. And that's taxpayer money. And if it wasn't 20 hours of work, and so I say to myself, well, what can we do with that? And then perhaps we can compare ourselves to other towns our size and evaluate really what the work is. And you know, and maybe you know better than I, maybe you have a better idea than I do because of what's involved. But to me, it just made me a little uncomfortable that we're hiring someone for 20 hours and there might not be enough work to warrant it. I don't know if someone wants to respond to that or not, but it just made me feel a little uncomfortable with my taxpayer money.
I am not intimately familiar with the position. I don't bird dog anybody in this building, so I trust pretty much what people tell me and say to me. I only reported on what this person said to me in an exit interview, and I was absolutely shocked.
So I guess I would have liked some follow through with that before just blanketly approving 20 hours for a person coming in. But you've already done it, but maybe in the future or something. I know you're doing your best, and I know you know more about this particular position than I do, but it is something that you feel a little bit uncomfortable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shelley was a former assessor's clerk, wasn't she? She always seemed to be busy. I don't know.
She filled in a lot in the clerk's office. The best thing is to get cross training. So between the supervisor, secretary, and the clerk's office, and
I know that's very helpful. Clerk's office can get crazy.
Anyone else?
no, that is it on the chat.
All right,
Don't say it.
then yes, Mr. Hankins.
Hankins, Road, Rush. I guess I feel a little uncomfortable also with not paying that bill, because we're too close to the election time, and all of this stuff is coming up now. It's been going on for years, and all of a sudden tonight, because we got an election, we can't pay our bills.
I'm trying to figure out how one relates to the other.
You tell me. You're running.
Pardon me?
You're running for office, and you were the one that brought it up not to pay the bill.
I have done that in the past
But this
because
is the way that our bills have been paid all year long.
just because
And
it's
just
been done
because
this
we have
way
an election
forever
coming up,
doesn't mean it's the right
Just
way to
because
do
we
it.
had- Well, why didn't you say that
I
before we
have.
start running for office?
I have.
When?
I've pulled a couple of times.
I look in the records all the time, and I don't see it.
I've pulled a couple of
I
times.
don't see it
There was
anywhere.
one that was for an attorney's fees several months ago. So yeah, I do pull things out. I have in the past. Usually there isn't a reason to,
Well, there's, based upon.
but today there
based
was a
upon how the
reason.
Bills have been paid.
But we
over
didn't
the
know where the
years,
money was coming from. Do you want me
Based
to?
upon how the bills have been paid over the years, they were paid. And then you found out what the problem was.
Oh,
Thank you.
I hope you don't do
Thank
your
you.
books at home like that, where you pay it before you know where you're going to get the money.
You want to come to me out of the board meeting? We can deal with it.
Anyone else?
I'm sorry, I know that you want to close up.
You can be the last speaker.
Okay, well, no, I also recall what Leah just said about how this is how it's been done, and that's the procedure that we did use, and yes, it does need, they all said, yes, we need to do it better, but we've been doing it this way, but there was an attempt to make it better, but because, you know, I still wish you'd just pay that bill, and then say, you know, we've been doing it like this in the past, but so, no, it's not the best way to do it, but you know there's a problem, pay the bill, and then fix the problem. So yeah, still feeling uncomfortable and not paying that bill.
And I will close this discussion with the following comments.
Supervisor, before that, Catherine Hankins would like to speak again, unless you would like to speak first.
I'll let Catherine Hankins be the last speaker and then I'll make my comments.
Catherine?
Thank you. I didn't mean to, sort of make a stir of this, but to really put it in perspective, this is not an issue of where the money is going to ultimately come from. We know we have an escrow account. We know that. We know that the company has to put $20,000 in. That's called an asset account. And then we have to report what we've taken from that account. That's the only thing that the board members don't know. How do we have to report that out? But an escrow account is essentially a trust account. We have escrow accounts for mortgages. We have escrow accounts. So the terminology is what should always be known by board members. Second, the American Recovery Act is underway. That $175,000 that we got has to be spent on very specific items. They're well defined, and that money is going to pay for the engineering cost. We don't have other opportunities to spend that money on other things in this community because we don't meet the criteria for internet. We don't meet the criteria for poverty. We don't meet, you look at the 5 or 6 categories that money was given to our community based on our census figures, that money has to be spent, and it has to be spent in a timely, effective way. So to say that you are trying to make sure that we do it fiduciary responsibility, we have the funds. This is what we're saying is that it comes out of an expense account, which is the engineering budget. And now we have to replenish that with monies from our escrow account or from ARA. But the vendors should not be part of that kind of discussion. And so to present to the public that you're trying to make sure where we're going to get the money, that's not really true. We know we have the money. We know where the money is ultimately going to come from. It's nice to have a different system so that it makes everybody on the board feel more comfortable. But it's disingenuous to say that we didn't pay the attorney when we knew it was going to come from the intervenor funds, or we didn't pay this person. And I have been here for over a decade, and we've never done this before. But to make it seem like it's something that is making us be better, or be more professional, or be more careful with our vendors, I'm worried about our reputation. And I appreciate other members of the community for voicing that, but we don't have to do this. We do not have to make something happen for no reason. It's not necessary. There's so many issues that we should have to discuss in this community. Most important, the comprehensive plan, but we should not be having a lengthy discussion and disagreement at the board level about paying our bills. We're going to have to pay them. We know we're going to have to pay them. And it's just holding up other companies' monies, and that's not right. No matter how you want to say it, how you want to defend it, it's just not right. So I'm glad it's on the agenda for the 21st. That's, but it's still not right. And if it was due yesterday, we should have paid it yesterday. Thank you. People are waiting for their money. They have a right to it.
Thank you. I just wanted to add,
Joanne Scanlon would like to speak.
now that Mrs. Hankins was the last speaker, I announced that. I'd love to hear her next meeting, but I wanted to say that I had the utmost respect for our previous financial director. He probably forgot more than I ever knew about running a finance operation. However, upon attending a couple of finance classes put on by the state controller and listening to some other people, my wife is a financial person. That's what she has done for a living. Listening to those people and trying to correlate the way our previous finance director did things versus how the state controller and other people told me it should be done. And I had to be careful because private finance isn't done the same way as municipal finance. And I discovered there were a lot of things in our financial records that were difficult to understand. I had people tell me that. I want to come in and look at the budget. Well, here it is. Well, I can't read this. Well, I probably can't read it for you any better than you can. So what I did was studied the budget for a while and said, that doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense. So my agenda was simplify the budget, make the department heads produce their budgets, unlike was previously done in many cases, and hold them accountable for the budgets they produce. I was very, very fortunate that I didn't have to do that alone. I did it with help from Mrs. Hankins, who has years of budget experience in nonprofits, so it's kind of like municipalities, and Christine Ferrara, our new financial director, who was not trained in a lot of this stuff by her predecessor. I asked for additional training and it was denied. I asked for additional training once and it was approved. I asked for it again and it was denied. And more recently, I asked the former finance director if he would do some additional training, and it was like jumping through circus hoops. So I said, to hell with that. We're almost where we've got to be. We can continue this learning process and continue this approach as a team. Thank God I've got the team I've got instead of squabbling with each other over every minute point. That's how we got to where we are. And I'm saying this because you're going to see future changes. If I'm here, you will see future changes because the people deserve a simple budget process to know where their money is being spent. And you shouldn't have to look through under 3 shelves on the table to figure out what the total sum is. Should be one, should look on one line. It doesn't have to be complicated like it's been. And that's my intent. Thank you. Now, I am going to adjourn the meeting to go into attorney-client privilege section. We will not discuss any business to come out and report on in that session. So thank you for attending. Thank you for understanding.
I'll make a motion to enter into.
If it's gonna be attorney-client, we can.
Oh, okay.
We can
Yeah.
meet in a privileged setting.
That's why I said what I said, John.
Wait, yeah, adjourning, I didn't want to leave the meeting open, so instead of adjourning, just.
So Do I have a second to adjourn the meeting?
We all second it.
I like that.
I like that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right, you can still end it, right, Pam, because you're co-host, or would you like me to do it?